next 3 hours, you will master Databricks SQL Warehouse by covering SQL Warehouse compute, autoscaling and queuing, adding parameters to SQL queries, creating SQL query snippets, streaming tables and incremental ingestion in SQL Warehouse, building slowly changing dimensions type 2, query profiling and query caching in Databricks, creating alerts for monitoring, and finally creating AI chatbot on top of your Databricks SQL Warehouse. In short, by the end of this video, you will be able to master all the ins and outs of Databricks SQL Warehouse, which will eventually help you to crack the interviews or you to become an efficient Databricks data engineer. Do you know the best part? Everything is covered from scratch. So there's no prerequisite required for this video, not even existing any kind of Databricks knowledge. It will just require your time, your efforts, your focus, and your lovely comment in the comment section, and that's it. So let's get started with this amazing Databricks SQL Warehouse full course. So what's up my data fam, happy Sunday first of all. And today's video, as you all know that today's video is on Databricks SQL Warehouse. And do you know what you will be learning by end of this video? I just want to just be on the point straight. So the agenda of today's video is pretty much simple: to make you a pro Databricks SQL Warehouse developer, because Databricks is in demand and everyone is talking about Databricks SQL Warehouse, Databricks SQL Warehouse. Why? Because data engineering and data warehousing go hand in hand, and obviously in order to just be an efficient Databricks developer, you have to learn the skill. Make sense? Common sense. So now by the end of this video, you will learn all the ins and outs of Databricks SQL Warehouse. Just to give you a hint, for example, parameterized queries, for example, slowly changing dimensions, for example, alerts, for example, enabling AI on top of your SQL Warehouse. Yes, you heard it right. You will also see how you can just enable AI capabilities within Databricks once you have developed your SQL Warehouse. Plus all the computes that we have in relation to SQL Warehouse. So this is a complete end-to-end guide for SQL Warehouse with respect to Databricks. Short and simple. Got it? So by completing this video, I would say if you just spend or devote your next 3 to 4 hours in this video, you will be all set to sit in the interviews. Plus you will become a pro Databricks SQL Warehouse developer. Trust me. What are the prerequisites, Ansh Lamba? I would say nothing, because Databricks SQL Warehouse is totally an independent area that you can learn even if you do not know any kind of PySpark. So that is the advantage for all the beginners as well. I would expect very basic SQL understanding. If you have that, you can just continue with this video. And without wasting any time, let's get started with it. And I just want to start with today's highlight. Congratulations congratulations to all of these people who have just cracked offer letters. Some people have cracked 5+ offer letters. Congratulations, all of them. I'm really happy for all of these people, because these people actually put efforts while learning the things without questioning anything. They just followed the guidance, they just followed the videos, they just watched each and every part of the video with practice, with revision, with, you can say, iterations of the video, because you need to absorb the knowledge as well. Kudos to all of these people, and I'm really proud of you, of my data fam. And I also want your name to be highlighted here so that we can just showcase your particular success story as well. Sorted? So heartiest congratulations and very well done. Keep rocking, keep growing, and you are my true data fam. Very good. So let's get started with our first section of the video. So bro, without having a good understanding of a warehouse, I think you should first have a good understanding of a warehouse. Like, what is a warehouse, right? So let me just ask you this question: what is a SQL warehouse? Because obviously we are just going to talk about Databricks SQL Warehouse. What is a SQL warehouse according to you? Because everyone has a different understanding of SQL warehouse. In general, or in short, you can treat it as, you can say, central location, or basically centralized location for your data. Whatever you have in your organization, whatever you have in your division. Working in any organization, let's say you're working in a finance organization or anything, right? So you will have this particular centralized location right? Centralized location. Makes sense. So this is basically the centralized location, and here you just dump your data, not obviously you, your organization, every kind of thing. Makes sense. So this is like basic definition of warehouse. And this is basically, you can say, the difference between a database and data warehouse, because in database we do not store all the information. We only store the structured data in the databases, but warehouse consists of everything. That is why in the modern days we just call it as lake house, but it is just a modern name for a warehouse. Okay, because lake house is the combination of data lake and warehouse, right? So for now, when you just talk about Databricks, you can just talk about warehouse, lake house, but in general, in short, behind the scenes, it is also a kind of warehouse, but a modern warehouse. Makes sense. But what is actually a warehouse? What is a warehouse? Warehouse is a centralized location for your data. Make sense? Very good. So basically, this is a kind of framework that we use to store our data, right? But you know what? What's so special in Databricks? In Databricks, we do not mention anything related to warehouse. We always talk about lakehouse. Why? Because with the rise of big data, we work with more and more data lakes, more and more files, right? So that is why we do not talk much about your data lake, or sorry, basically warehouse. We just talk about data lake house. Okay, but behind the scenes, it is the same thing. It is just like the modern way of dealing with the data warehouse. Makes sense. So this is like basically a general understanding of a SQL warehouse. So now let's say if I just want to ask you about Databricks SQL warehouse, what is this? Because this is a little bit confusing, or I would say this was a little bit confusing, because now you will be crystal clear with this particular understanding, with this particular concept. Okay, so what is Databricks SQL warehouse? Just guess. You will say Databricks SQL warehouse can be equivalent to lakehouse, kind of. Actually, this is not 100% correct. Why? The thing is, Databricks SQL warehouse sounds like it is a kind of centralized location. Sounds like it is a kind of location where we dump our data. But do you know what? Databricks SQL warehouse is actually not a warehouse. Databricks SQL warehouse is actually a kind of compute. What? Yes. This is a kind of special compute that we have within Databricks. Okay, makes sense. So what it does, okay, and why do we need it? Basically, as I just mentioned, that with the Databricks, we process our data, right? We build so many amazing lake houses, but we cannot actually share those lake houses. Makes sense. We have to share the warehouse with the, you can say, BI team, who will develop the dashboards, who will consume your data, your curated data, right? Your maybe data scientist will be using this data. So we have to share it with the help of warehouse, right? So that is why Databricks created this special thing, special compute called SQL warehouse. And do you know what was the previous name for it? It was called as, I think, Databricks SQL endpoints. Okay. So that means once you have your data ready in your catalog, in your schema, you can actually share those tables, views, everything with the help of this compute. Let's talk more about this compute. Okay, let's talk about it. So what is this compute? What is this? Basically, this is a special kind of compute which is efficient for your SQL workloads. Now, what kind of SQL workloads? SQL workloads, as in, let's say you are a data engineer. Okay, you are a data engineer. Wow. And yeah, wearing a hat, cool hat. Okay, and this can be a boy or girl, no difference. So let's say you are a data engineer, right? And you have developed an amazing data warehouse, basically lake house. Okay, let's say this is your amazing lake house. Okay, now there is a data analyst, or basically BI analyst, who wants to build the reports on top of this data. Okay, perfect. So now this person cannot use this data directly. No, because this is not allowed. Make sense? Okay. Now we need to add a kind of abstraction layer on top of this data. Okay. And that abstraction layer is actually a kind of SQL endpoint, which is your SQL warehouse. Okay. So we will just apply a wrapper like this. Let's say this is a wrapper and this is called SQL warehouse. Okay. SQL warehouse. Makes sense. SQL warehouse. Now this wrapper can be used by this particular data analyst. Okay, so let's use it. Let's say this person is using this particular warehouse, this wrapper. Do you know what? Now whenever this person will be building a report, let's say this person is building Power BI reports. So this person will be running SQL queries, right? You will say, it depends, bro. Whatever things we build in Power BI, actually we are building or basically running the SQL queries behind the scenes. Fundamental of Power BI. Okay, so we actually run the SQL queries behind it. So if we want this data analyst to get amazing performance while building reports, while refreshing the reports, we need to add some magic here in the wrapper so that it can run those queries faster. What is that magic? This magic is compute. So this person, this data analyst, will use this compute to run all these SQL workloads on top of your data. And this person will get amazing results. This is only the one part of it. Okay, we have amazing benefits in the Databricks SQL Warehouse. I will just let you know. This is only the one part of it when you want to share your data. Okay, because obviously this is like, I am just talking about when data is going outside of your control, when someone else is running those things. But there are so many amazing, you can say, optimizations we get along with this compute that I will just show you. Amazing optimizations plus amazing features and capabilities. Okay, amazing. Okay, makes sense. So this is like one part of it, which is like a very end-to-end basic understanding of compute, because you need to understand it step by step. It was a little bit confusing, but now it is not. Okay, because now you are watching this video. Makes sense. Okay, so this was about SQL endpoint, basically SQL warehouse, which is also a kind of special compute to run your workloads. Make sense? Very good. So far so good. Very good. Now let me just tell you how many types of SQL warehouses do we have, how we perform scaling and everything, and that will be done with the help of the official documentation, so that you will get the exact right knowledge and information, because this concept is new and I want you to get the right knowledge from the right source. I will help you understand the things. Do not need to worry. Okay, so do not feel like this boy is saying this thing. Is he saying right or wrong? So you will see the proof. Okay, so let's go there and actually see like what are the types and what exactly the SQL warehouse is. We need to understand it in detail and then we will just start our hands-on. Okay, let's see. So I am into the official documentation. Okay, and let me just close the unnecessary tabs. So basically this is the official documentation for your Databricks SQL warehouse. Make sense? Very good. So first of all, I am into SQL warehouse overview. You can also go and just check. So it is saying use SQL warehouse. Okay, and before even that, just read this line. SQL warehouse is a compute resource that lets you query and explore data on Azure Databricks. Very good. Most users have access to SQL warehouse configured by administrators, obviously because admins will be providing you the access, but that is fine. Okay, good. Now it is saying use SQL warehouses. The SQL warehouses you have access to appear in the compute drop down, blah, 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 blah. I will just show you how you can just create those SQL warehouses. And that is the only thing that you need to get from this page for now. Okay, I know we have some cool stuff, but do not have a look there. I will just let you understand. Okay. Then we need to actually go to the second page, which is SQL warehouse types. Now we need to see what are the types. Basically, there are three types, major three types: classic, pro, and serverless. Serverless is the latest one, so we will be just talking about that in detail at the end, like not that at the end of the video, but yeah, at the end of these types. Let's first of all talk about classic. What is classic SQL warehouse type? Basically, classic SQL warehouse type is a kind of old school SQL warehouse type, basically compute. I will just call it as compute. Okay, so it is the old school traditional compute that we had. Why? Because you manage almost all the things. How? Because you will not get something called as predictive IO. You will not get something called as intelligent workload management. When you need to manage all the things, you go with classic compute. This was a traditional way of creating your SQL compute, or basically SQL warehouse. Make sense? And this is a very good chart that you can also see, okay, for the comparison. Good. So let's talk about classic a little bit in more detail. So if I go to classic, where is classic? Yeah. So classic warehouse supports Photon. If you do not know about Photon, basically just to understand it, using an analogy, or basically from the layman language, Photon is basically a kind of C++ wrapper, not exactly a wrapper, but you can treat it as like a wrapper which is applied on top of your traditional JVM, which boost the query processing and normal processing of data. We have similar stuff in Microsoft Fabric as well. We have something called as native executive engine in Fabric. It is basically built off Apache Gluten and one more thing. I forgot the name. I think Apache Gluten, and there was one more thing. Yeah, I forgot the name. So these are basically the C++ based packages and libraries which are actually replacing the traditional JVM approach. Obviously, you can just read more about Photon if you just want to. It is a kind of new addition, but by default it will be there from now, I'm so sure. So Photon is like a just kind of enhancement they have done on top of your compute. Okay, so that is fine. So now they support Photon but does not support predictive IO or intelligent workload management. Now what are these two things? These two things are kind of optimizations which are applied on top of your compute so that you can save more money and get more value. Make sense? So if you just read something called as predictive IO. What is predictive IO? This is basically a feature to speed up the selective scan operations in SQL queries, whatever you just apply or whatever you just query, whatever you just feed into your dashboards or normal SQL queries. Okay, so predictive IO can provide a wide range of speed ups. Again, optimization feature that we have. Intelligent workload management. This is basically a kind of a management feature which can help you to boost your performance plus control your cost, like not exactly the cost as in you can say you can save the resources as well. So if you just see, it enhances Databricks SQL serverless ability to process large number of queries quickly and cost effectively. Make sense? It is using AI powered prediction and dynamic management techniques. IWM works to verify that workloads have the right amount of resources quickly. So this is a kind of manager that you get on top of your cluster. Make sense? Okay, good. So this is basically, these are the two features that you do not get with classic, because this is a kind of old school you can say cluster that we have, right? Then we have Pro. Okay, Pro will have predictive IO but will not be having intelligent workload management. Then we have the third type, serverless. Serverless is the recommended approach for the new Databricks solutions by Databricks as well. Why? Because the thing is, whenever you create Pro and Classic compute, okay, your resources will be in your Azure subscription. But when you go with serverless, the compute resources will be on the Azure Databricks account side. Plus, you do not need to wait to warm up your cluster. It will be up and running for you. You can anytime switch and just turn it on and you can just use it. Plus, you get this intelligent workload management as well. Make sense? That is the core difference between three. And recommended one is obviously serverless SQL Warehouse. And you will also see it in your Databricks workspace that we are just about to create very soon, just to perform the hands-on, right? So rapid start time, as I just mentioned, query admittance, quick downscaling to minimize cost when demand is low. So it is like auto scaling and auto downscaling as well. So it is an amazing warehouse. Sorted. So these were like major compute types that we have within Databricks, right? Now we're gonna talk about a very important topic, and I just want you all to take notes on this particular topic. It is called SQL Warehouse sizing, scaling, and queuing behavior. This is one of the most important thing. So here, the concept is very easy. You just need to put some focus, okay, on your screen. So first of all, we need to see sizing, scaling, and queuing behavior, like how it happens. Because see, whenever you will be just, let's say, giving some interviews, okay, everyone wants to land their dream role, dream company, right? So let's say you are just giving some interviews, okay, so if they're asking you about warehouse questions, you will actually get questions related to sizing, scaling. I'm so sure. So I want you to get this concept very carefully. First of all, let's talk. We know that there are basically three types of warehouses: classic, pro, and serverless. Okay, serverless behaves a little bit different every time. So we're gonna first of all cover classic and pro. Okay, so let's first of all cover classic and pro. So let's talk about classic and pro SQL warehouses. Make sense? So what is sizing? So whenever we create a kind of Databricks SQL warehouse, we select the size. Okay, this is called as t-shirt sizing. As you can see, 2 extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, 2 extra large, 3 extra large, 4 extra large. What is this? Very fancy name, but it is very efficient. Basically, let's say I want to create a cluster of size 2 extra small. That means I hope that you know what is cluster. Okay, I hope that you know that what is a cluster. If you do not know what is a cluster, cluster is basically the group of interconnected machines, which are also called as nodes in the world of Spark or big data. So they are basically interconnected machines. And obviously in the Spark architecture, we have one driver and multiple worker nodes. So this is the cluster structure. One driver node of this machine. Okay, this is a kind of machine that we have. Then worker node, one worker node of this machine. If I increase the size, let's say extra small, that means obviously one driver node of this size and 2 worker nodes. Then if I just increase the size more small, I will get 4 worker nodes. So this way we can keep on increasing the cluster size. It totally depends like how much data we are processing, how many worker nodes we would need, depending upon the data size, depending on the concurrency that we want, everything. Make sense? Now, whenever we just describe the size, we also need to describe something called as, you can say, scaling, starting point and ending point. Okay, let's say you are creating a warehouse. I will just show you how to create all these things. Do not worry. You first need to grab the concept. It is very important. So let's say you are actually creating a classic or basically pro SQL warehouse. Okay, so they will ask you to provide minimum number of clusters and maximum number of clusters. Okay, so let's say, see, it is also written when creating a cluster pro or classic warehouse, choose a cluster size first of all, then set the minimum and maximum number of clusters. Okay, if you just set, let's say, minimum number 1, maximum number, let's say 100, obviously not 100, let's say 10. Okay, 1 and 10. So how it will auto scale? Like, why do we need auto scaling? So let's say currently your query started with the first cluster, only one. Okay, 2 extra small, only 1 cluster. It can keep on adding more and more clusters. So let's say if your solution is actually used by more than 10 users, that means more than 10 concurrent queries are running against your warehouse or your lakehouse, it will add one more cluster. Then let's say 10 more, it will add one more cluster, then so on. So it will keep on auto scale your particular warehouse. Make sense? Basically cluster that you have defined, because you have minimum number of clusters and maximum number of clusters. Make sense? Perfect. Now there's one more rule that it follows for auto scaling. So let's say your query is actually waiting for 2 to 6 minutes of query. Okay, so let's say you ran a query and it's almost 5 minutes and you haven't received any kind of result. It will add one more cluster. Let's say 6 to 12 minutes, it will add 2 clusters, 20 minutes and so on. So it will keep on auto scale based on the, you can say, time that your query is taking to load your data. Make sense? Or you can even add the rule such as if a query waits in queue for 5 minutes, the warehouse scales up. If load remains low for 15 consecutive minutes, let's say load is not much, it will downscale it down to the minimum needed to handle the peak load from that period. Make sense? So it is a kind of rule that it follows. If we talk about SQL warehouse which are serverless, what is the difference first of all? So one thing is same. Yes, we have sizing in SQL, serverless SQL warehouse as well. So now if you read serverless SQL warehouse, so it has something called as sizing. Let me just show you serverless SQL. See, sizing a serverless SQL warehouse. Cluster size, for example, extra small, medium, large, same, determines the compute resources available for a single cluster. Make sense? So as we just saw, extra small means one driver, one worker, then keep on adding more and more machines. Simple. So autoscaler adds or remove the cluster of the size as needed. Now, in case of autoscaling and queuing, it has something called as IWM, which is intelligent workload management, right? Remember, we just talked about it. So it uses that and leverages that to auto scale and basically downscale, upscale, and queuing behavior. Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? So if you will just read this, you will get to know that serverless SQL Warehouse use IWM to automatically manage query workloads. So there are not basically hard and set rules for serverless SQL Warehouse because it, yes, follows the rules, but it is more from the IWM perspective, like what is needed for our workflow. What is AI recommending to just have the, you can say, clusters ready for our queries. Maybe it knows our pattern, maybe it knows our behavior, right? And again, it is cost effective. So we do not need to manage the infrastructure. That is the best thing. Make sense? But yes, while creating the serverless SQL warehouse, we define sizing and we define minimum number of clusters and maximum number of clusters as well. So we define minimum and maximum as well. So do not need to worry. But for auto scaling and queuing, it uses IWM. This is the concept that you need to know. And I hope that now you understood this thing. Make sense? So now what we need to do, we will simply create our Databricks free workspace so that we can actually see all of these things. And you will be happy to know this, that you can even create Databricks workspace easily without any kind of business email, without any kind of complex stuff. Just go to the Google and just create it. Let me just show you how you can just do that if you do not know. So just go to any browser and simply search Databricks free edition. And I hope that you would be having a free edition. I'm so sure. So let's say this is your free edition and you can click on try Databricks. Okay. And then you will be landing on this particular page. And here you actually need to click, let's say, is this? Yeah, I think this is the one. So this is the sign up. Okay. So they are saying get started for free, no credit card required. Wow. They're simply adding this thing so that obviously they can just be very clear. Hey, we do not need any kind of credit card. So you can actually click here. And if you already have an account, you can click here, already using Databricks login. So I already have an account, so I'll be using my existing account. If you do not have one, you can create a new one. Make sense? Okay, very good. Let me just show you my personal Databricks account and let me just take you through that particular account and let's master Databricks SQL Warehouse. Okay, let's see. So welcome to my Databricks free edition, and you also have your own, so welcome there as well. So basically this is the home page. Okay, and you will see almost the same stuff. Make sense? Do you know what is the best thing about Databricks free edition? They have added all these features here which was not there before in the community edition. So basically community edition was there to learn PySpark, I would say, but Databricks free edition is there to learn Databricks, which is more important. Obviously Databricks is like top-notch product right now, that like they are literally putting efforts to make AI data product end to end. Okay, Ansh, Lamba, I know you love Databricks. Now just tell us something about SQL Warehouse. Okay, let's get back to the point. First of all, before proceeding further, I would like to mention one thing. Just click on this particular button. You will go to settings. Okay, just make sure that you go to developer and you turn on all these features that I have turned on. You can just have a look. I'm scrolling it down slowly. Okay, just for your reference. Okay, I'm just scrolling it down slowly so that you can also see new, you can say, UI, because obviously we need to learn the updated information, learn from the updated information. So yeah, so these are all the features, and just turn on all the toggles. And do you know what, if I were you, I would just on all the things. There's no harm, right? So just turn it on and just make sure everything is on. Very good. So once it is done, let's get back to the point. So let's say this is our Databricks workspace, right? And this is the area that we need to master today. Master means master. Master means master. It's not just like scratching the surface. We need to put the whole arm and need to dig deeper, right? So now this is basically the area that we are just talking about. First thing, you can click on SQL warehouses. Okay, click here and you will see that you already have one cluster there for you. Who created that? Who created that? Databricks created that for you because you are using a free edition and you need to use it to learn so many stuff. So they create a default cluster for you, which is called serverless starter warehouse. Okay, you cannot create more because this is a free edition. Okay, and they will not allow you to just create so many clusters for free. But yes, they created one for you, which is the best one, serverless SQL warehouse. And just let me know, what is that particular feature that you use in serverless SQL warehouse which enables better cost management and better workload management? I just want a name. Okay, what is that particular, you can say, name of that particular thing that we have just discussed? Just let me know in the comment section. I want to check your knowledge. I want to check what you are learning from this video. I want to check your focus, what you are actually doing while watching the video. Okay, just let me know in the comment section. I want to see like who will comment and I will just reply. Okay, who will just give me the right answer. Just drop it right now. Okay, because I am just putting so much of efforts to make you understand the things so that you can absorb. You need to tell me. Okay, so this is our best SQL warehouse that we have. Make sense? If I click here, I will see all the things there. Type is serverless, cluster size is 2 extra small, auto stop is after 10 minutes of inactivity. That means if my cluster is inactive for 10 minutes, it will be auto stopped. Scaling, I told you, even for the serverless SQL warehouse, yes, now I'm telling you the answer. Okay, I know like good ones or lovely ones, my loyal data family members would have commented down the right name. So it is called IWM, Intelligent Workload Management. So we know that with serverless SQL warehouse, intelligent workload management auto scales and downscales the clusters. But it is our duty to provide minimum and maximum number of clusters that it can auto scale and downscale. Okay, so this is basically a free one, so we cannot actually decide it, but Databricks has decided minimum 1 cluster and maximum 1 cluster. Make sense? So I hope now you're just getting that information that we have just learned in the theory part. Make sense? Good. Okay, very good. So this is the name of it and everything is fine. Okay, we will talk about monitoring, connection details, everything, but for now this is enough because that's what we discussed and now we are simply verifying it. Okay, there's no need to verify, but yeah, sorted. So this was our SQL warehouse UI. Okay, not really, just compute UI. Okay, so now this is sorted. If you want to turn it on, you can click on start. Okay, it's your choice because it's free, so you can just turn it on. It's fine, and it will be turned on, I think, in just few seconds because it is serverless. So it is serverless, so wait time will be very less because compute is managed on the Azure Databricks side, not basically Azure, basically on the Databricks side, because we were reading Azure Databricks documentation, so that is why it was written Azure Databricks, but it is turned on immediately because it is running on the Databricks side. But when you create Pro and Classic compute, it would take time because it would be created on your Azure or basically any cloud subscription. Sorted. See, it is running. Very good. Very good. Now, are we good to discuss about the technicalities that we have within Databricks SQL Warehouse, or we need to learn more things? Let me just check my list that I have for this video. So SQL Warehouse is done, types are done. Yes, scaling concept is done. Yes, now we are good to start with the first thing. It is called SQL Editor. Okay, let me just click here, SQL Editor. And you should also see the new SQL Editor, which is this one. Okay, it is saying fail to load query. By the way, we do not have any kind of query, so simply close it. And these are my previous queries that I would have created, and you can simply ignore it. You can click on workspace. Okay, and then you will see this thing, whatever you have. So in my case, I have some things here you can simply ignore, but yes, you can click on users or whatever you want to do. Okay, so that is fine. That is fine. So now, even before talking about SQL editor, like what is this SQL editor? What is this thing? Basically, this is the area where we create our queries. Queries means what? See, if just let me know, just do let me know one thing. If you are just building your SQL warehouse, obviously you don't need to run SQL queries, right? Where you will run those things? Inside your SQL editor. So in order to start with this, we first need to create a kind of folder. So let's do that. Let's go here and let's go to workspace and PySpark DBT project. Oh, by the way, this is my previous video, which is PySpark DBT project. If you haven't watched this video, if you want to build a real-time PySpark and DBT project, you can definitely watch this video. And what is a video link? You can just go on Google and then simply search PySpark DBT project Ansh Lamba. And just a tip, if you want any video in the field of data engineering, just write the topic name and just add Ansh Lamba with that. You will find the video. Trust me. See, this is a kind of video, job ready big data project that you can definitely watch to enhance your skills, plus obviously to become competitive in the world of big data and data engineering, right? Amazing project, trust me. I literally explained amazing concepts. Go watch it, upskill yourself and do wonders in the industry. Do wonders, grow, and yes, grow. That's it. That's what I want from you. That's what I want from you. Okay. So perfect. So now let's create our next folder. I will not delete it. I will just keep it there. So let's create our new folder. Okay. And yeah, let's create a new folder. So let's say SQL Warehouse. Boom. SQL Warehouse. Perfect. Okay, makes sense. So if you click on SQL Warehouse, we have everything. Okay. If I now click on create, if I click on query, I can click here. What it will do, it will create a query for me within this particular folder, and that's what I want. Make sense? That's what I want. Okay, makes sense. And this is basically our UI, which is the modern UI, updated UI. In your case, you might be seeing a different or basically old UI. You can click on this drop down to enable it. Okay, just click here and maybe it would be like this in your case. So I have just turned it off. Maybe it will be looking like this in your case if you're using old UI. So you can simply click on, I think, these three dots and just click on this thing, new SQL editor, and turn it on, because new SQL editor is amazing and you will see a huge difference between both. I will just show you, don't worry. So this is our query. This is our query editor. Let me just give you a quick overview. This is basically the area where you will see folder name, query name. You can even rename it. Let's rename it. Let's say query init, because it is just like initial query that we want to build. So this is the method to rename it. Okay. And this is the workspace name and database name. We do not have any kind of catalog and database, basically schema. We will be creating it, don't worry, but for now I'm just showing you all the basic stuff. And then this is the editor, then these three dots, file, edit, view. It's fine. This is basically the light, which is light, basically the green dot for telling you that this cluster is up and running. Then this is scheduled. Once you have the query, you can even schedule it from there. Then this is for, I think, share, if you want to share this query. Then this is the save button. Perfect. Make sense? Okay. Very good. So let's say now you want to create a catalog. Let's first of all create a catalog. Okay, makes sense, because I want you to learn everything from scratch. That's why this video is a beginner friendly video, right? So let's say you want to create a catalog. So how you can just do that? So here you will see a button to attach your script or basically your query with an existing catalog. I do not want you to use an existing catalog because in your case it will be like all empty. But you can create a new catalog. You can simply say create catalog and catalog name, let's say SQL Warehouse. Okay, SQL Warehouse. Simply click on run all. This is basically the button to run your queries, and this is exactly same as you see in any SQL workbench. So it is basically simply running my query. So this has created the catalog. Okay, now I want to create schema, or you can even say database. Okay, create schema. I will simply say, let's say staging. Let's say I want to create staging schema, stg dot, yeah, just stg. And what is the catalog that I want to pick? I want to pick catalog called SQL Warehouse. Make sense? So this is my schema. Let's run this as well. So this has this particular schema as well. Now if you will click on this drop down, this one, you will see that particular catalog name, just select it, and you will see the schema name as well. So now what will happen, every time you need to run your SQL commands, you do not need to refer the catalog and schema name again and again. Why? Because it is already attached to this particular query. That is the advantage of modern UI that we have within the SQL editor. Make sense? Good. So what is the first thing that we need to do? See, obviously whenever we just create anything, let's say whenever we just want to do anything within the SQL warehouse, we start with creating a table. How we can create a table? Bro, it is exactly same as we have or as we just do in any SQL workbench. You need to literally say create table. Let's say I want to create a products table. Okay, create table products, and let's define that what we want. Let's say I want product ID integer. Okay, let me just do this. Okay, and let's say I want to add product name, price, category, all these things, right? So let's do this thing. Let's say I want to do this. So this will create this particular table. Make sense? Now let's actually insert some values into this table, and again exact same syntax. Okay, insert into products, values, category X, category Y, thanks to Copilot, not Copilot. I think they have their own AI assistant. Yeah. So 4, and then comma, product D, price is 25, 19, category Z. Okay, it's perfect. And let me just remove this thing because now we are inserting the values into this. Let's run this. So this is basically created. Now let's say we have a table, and you all know that we have a table. Okay, I want to, let's say, query the data that I have in the table in that particular schema. Again, exact same SQL we need to write. You will feel like, hey, SQL is the same. That's why you will hear this thing from almost every data engineer, that learn SQL, because SQL is the backbone of data engineering. Once you know SQL, you can literally learn any tool and technology, because they will not change the SQL that you use. Yes, they will keep on adding some enhancements that you will see in this particular video as well. We will just cover query parameters, query caching, all those things. But the backbone will remain the same, which is SQL. That's it. So let's say, and to all those people who are thinking, hey, this is just a basic SQL he's writing, we level up slowly, gradually. Okay, select asterisk from, let's say, products table, and let's try to run this. In some cases, see, this is the data that I am seeing. Very good. In some cases, you will see some errors if your query is not attached to the right catalog. So currently it is attached to SQL Warehouse. It is fine. It is attached to stage. It is fine. If it is not attached to that, you have to write it something like this. Let's say SQL Warehouse dot staging dot products, like this. But when you have your query attached to this, you can literally ignore this reference. This is the advantage of it. Make sense? Okay, very good. So this is the way that you create a table, and very basic fundamental tutorial for this particular, you can say, part, but it was required because now you know how to create catalogs, how to create schema, how to create tables, how to insert the values within the Databricks warehouse, SQL warehouse, right? Okay, makes sense. So now we need to look at some cool things that we have within the Databricks SQL editor. Okay, so first thing that I want to talk about is query parameters. Now, what is query parameters? Let me just tell you with the help of an example so that you will understand what is it and why it is needed. Okay, let me show you. So now let's talk about the query parameters. What are query parameters and why do we need parameters in our query? So for example, let's say you are a data engineer. Yeah, I know you are a pro data engineer. So let's say you are a data engineer. You have developed a long query like this. Wow. You are a pro SQL developer and you have developed this query. Wow. This query actually took a lot of time to build and obviously a lot of testing, because whenever you just build a long query, you have to debug it multiple times to see the output and blah, 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 blah. So many things. You did it one time. Okay, you did it one time. Now you need to do it for multiple times. You need to create similar query for different objects. How you can just do that? In those scenarios, you consider something called as parameters. You make your query something called as dynamic queries. Just take notes, bro. Just take notes. These are like very important concepts that you are learning. Dynamic queries. Okay. So in order to create your queries dynamic, you need to add parameters within your particular, you can say, script, SQL script. Make sense? Okay. So in order to do that, you will be obviously using Databricks features, but you also need to understand the importance of it. When you add the parameters, you can literally put any kind of data into this script, and this script can actually behave the same for other objects as well. Make sense? That is the concept of dynamic queries, or basically query parameters. Make sense? Now, this query parameter concept sounds very, very simple. It is very simple, but we will be just adding more and more challenges and more and more complexity so that you can learn everything in detail. Let me just give you a quick overview how you can just get started with your query parameter within your Databricks SQL Warehouse. Let me just show you. So we are back on our Databricks portal, and now we are actually going to apply our first, you can say, parameterized query. So for example, if I write something like this, if I write, let's say, select asterisk from products, if I write like this, and I write where product ID equals to, let's say, 3. Okay, if I run this, what will happen? It will return product ID with 3, right? Okay. What if I now, let's say not I, or let's say not you, let's say a business manager or business analyst, or let's say maybe any kind of management team, any kind of actually the non-development team want to use, or basically wants to use your query. So obviously if you have written complex query, they will be so hesitant to make any change in your query, and I'm so sure. This is very basic query, but let's say you have written a long query. Obviously they will not make any changes, but the thing is they want to filter down their data basically on top of your query that you have built. What you can do, let's imagine this query is a very long query. Now what you can do, you can literally write something like this, colon, I think not colon, basically just product ID. Make sense? And now if you just run this, now do you know what will happen? This will simply ask me to put a parameter value. See? Oh, okay. Now this is my query. Now any business manager, any stakeholder does not need to touch my SQL query, and I will not even allow it to touch it. I will simply give him or her the read access, and person can change the parameter from here. Let's say I want to put here 1. I can run it. Okay, and this will give me the results. Wow. Just ignore this thing because this was just a warning, because we ran the query without putting anything here. So this is the thing. Now we are not actually touching anything here in this particular SQL query. Are you getting my point? The power of parameters in your query. Let's say now business manager or any non-tech people, okay, from non-development team wants to see the results for product ID 2. Run all, and that's it. This is the power of parameterized queries that you can just create for your stakeholders, for your anyone, right? For even yourself as well. Let's say you want to populate some things dynamically, that I will just show you. Don't need to worry, but this is just like a very basic overview of it that we are just going to see right now, right? So this is the way to create parameters within the SQL queries, and you can actually feed it from here. Got it? Simple. It was cool, right? It was cool. And if you have, let's say, multiple parameters, you can simply say and price Okay, greater than, then again, if you want to just add a parameter, this is the syntax: colon and the parameter name. Okay, so let me just add it. See, now second box is here. Makes sense? If I run this, it will give me error because this is empty. I can simply say, let's say 10. If I run this, it will give me the result. Make sense? Make sense? So this is the way you can create parameters within your query, and you know the reason why do we need to create the parameters within the Databricks SQL Warehouse, right? So let me just save this query for now. You can click here save to just save the, you can say, progress, so that you can just work later on as well. Obviously, if you're just watching this video in pieces and you are just making progress as you go ahead with this video. Make sense? So this is the way to do that. Make sense? Good. So let's see now how we can just work with the complex scenarios with respect to the SQL parameterized queries, because now we need to level up. Okay, let's see. I want to talk about a few more types of parameters that we have in the query, because when you are building, you can say, real world data warehouse, and you are using parameterized queries for that. So obviously, you will not be just filtering or pruning your data based on where condition, right? Let's say you do not want all the columns. You want only product ID and product name. That's it. For example, okay, for example. So in that particular scenario, what you can do, you can simply create parameters for your columns as well. And that is the tricky part. Let me just show you. So let's say this is asterisk and this is hard coded, right? So if I want to create a parameter, I cannot write something like this. Let's say column one. I cannot, right? I cannot. Okay. Let's say I provide something called as product ID. If I run it, attach and run, let's see if it works. Let's see. What do you think? Will it work? Yes. So, why it worked and when it will not work? That is the question. So basically, let's say you just want to create this kind of parameter and you created it and you just provided the value, right? Okay, makes sense. So it will work when you just want to list the columns. It is fine. But you know what? Do you know what? So this is fine. Like we just want to replace this value like this. Let's say like this. But now let's say you want to use the parameter in the column name with your condition. So if you want to replace this column with a parameter, you cannot directly use a parameter value here. Why? Because obviously if you do something like this, let's say column 1, okay, let's say, or let's say column product ID. If you do it like this, it will not work. Why? Because this is also a parameter and you are saying that this is also a parameter. How it can just work? So it is very simple. We have a special function in Databricks. It's called identifier. You have to use identifier. Okay. So when you wrap this particular column in identifier, now if you pass that particular column, it will work. Let's say I want to pass product ID. Okay, let's try to run it. See, now it will work because now it will obviously treat this as a value and this will treat it as a column. Treat it as what? Column. That is important. Make sense? That is important. So this will treat this particular column as your parameterized column, not just a hard-coded value. No. Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? This is important, really important. So now, this was all about column, right? What about, because I know like some of you will be so curious and some of you would have just um, written down the comment as well. Hey, Ansh, Lamba, what if we want to parameterize the objects? Objects? Obviously, let's say you want to parameterize the objects. How we can just parameterize the object. So for that particular thing, you have to use a special kind of function with pattern. So for example, in the real world, obviously you will not be writing it here in something like products. You will obviously writing the whole thing like this. Let's say, what was the catalog name? What was the catalog name? SQL Warehouse. Okay. SQL Warehouse dot stg dot products, right? So you will write something like this. Makes sense. Now I'm saying you want to parameterize this whole thing, basically these objects. How you can parameterize these things? Because let's say this is your dev catalog. You want to promote it in QA. You want to promote it into prod. So obviously this should be parameterized, right? Make sense? Common sense. Because this is just your dev environment. When you just want to promote it to QA and prod, this should be parameterized, right? So how you can just make those things parameterized? So for that, you will be using something called as database objects, and this is a little bit more trickier than these things. And I will just check if I can just show you the documentation if we have something for this particular feature. Parameterized queries, Databricks. Work and query parameters on AWS. Yeah, we don't care. AWS or Azure. Okay. Okay. So this is column named parameter. This is fine. This is also covered. So I hope like you have just learned all these things. Okay. So you can just apply tick, tick, tick. See, this was about field name that we just saw. The next thing is database objects, right? So this is database objects, and this is the thing. This is a pattern that you need to follow. Make sense? Catalog, schema, and table. So what is this pattern? Let me just show you. So first of all, obviously you will use identifier to tell them, hey, this is not just a value. This is a parameterized object, right? So first parameter name will be catalog. Okay. Then we'll use double straight lines. Then dot. Why dot? Because this is a notation that we use. Then schema. Again, parameter name. Then dot. Then table. So this is the way to use basically objects in a parameterized query. See, make sense? Make sense? Make sense? Okay, very good. So let's say you want to do the same thing. So what I will do, I will simply use identifier. Okay, and within the identifier, I will create the parameter called catalog. You can just pick any name. It's not compulsory that you have to pick the same name. Let's say catalog, then double line, then dot, then schema, then double line, then table. Make sense? So let's try to actually run this, and we have see so many parameters, and we will simply say SQL warehouse, because these things are very important, because when you just develop the solutions which obviously will be deployed in multiple environments, you need to make your queries in a parameterized way, right? Stage and table will be, let's say, products. Okay, perfect. So this is the way to do that. Make sense? Okay, very good. So this was all about your parameterized queries, and basically how you can just create parameters within your queries so that you can just make your solution dynamic. Make sense? I will also show you one example of using parameters within your, let's say, jobs as well. But obviously the jobs part will be coming later in this video when we'll be just looking at the orchestration work, how we can orchestrate our SQL warehouse. Basically, I think towards the end of the video, so it is fine. Okay. But remember that we'll be discussing these parameterized things in the jobs and orchestration, basically pipelines as well. Make sense? Good. So this is all about your parameterized queries. Now, what is the next thing that we are going to discuss? The next thing we are going to discuss is query snippets. It is very important and very, very, very helpful. Query snippets. Let me just show you what is that. Now let's have a look at query snippets. Very fancy name, and you know what? It is really a fancy thing. When I just tried it, I was like, wow, this is really, really nice. Let me just tell you what is that, and you will actually understand it completely. And once you understand this, you will feel like, wow, this is actually behaving as a programming language. What? Really? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let me just tell you, basically, let's say you know about parameters. You know about parameters, now you learn about parameters. Parameters, if I just compare it with the programming language, it is more like variables that you can put within your queries. That are fine. But what if you want to put the entire query within query? Hey, Ansh, hold on. What did you say? I said, let's say you have a query like this. Select asterisk. Let's indent it. Indentation is really, really important because I still remember those days when my computer science teacher used to shout at me, Ansh Lamba, what are you doing writing the whole code in one line? I was like, yeah, why to waste the lines? But yeah, you should indent your code, okay? Because now I feel why she was shouting. And she was right. So select asterisk from, let's say, table, okay? Table X, whatever, or table Y. Now you know that every time you will be writing something called as where clause. You will be writing something for where, right? Something. So in that particular scenario, you will be writing something like this, where let's say product ID, or basically let's say price is greater than 10, 20, whatever. Just a basic example so that you can understand, okay? Because once you understand the concept, you can apply it anywhere. So let's say this is the part that you are repeating every time. Every time. What if I say you can literally create a a special thing which is called snippet. So you can create a snippet only for this part. Okay, only snippet T. Oh man, let me just write it again. So sorry for that. So let's say select asterisk from, okay, and then yeah, where product ID or basically product price greater than 10. Perfect. Very good. Now this part is your snippet. Okay, this part is your snippet. So I am creating, hey, create a snippet for me. Oh, create a snippet for me for this particular part, and let's give it a name. Let's say I want to give it a name, for example, product wear. Let's say, okay, this is the name that I want to give. So this product where will hold this whole query. So do you know what? I can literally save my time by creating snippets while writing the SQL statements. So for example, what will happen in Databricks? I will be writing something like this. Select, okay, let's not indent it. Select asterisk from. Now I know that I have to write the same line again and I will be just wasting my time. Like obviously, like, see, you do not need to just keep on writing the same thing again and again. So you can literally start writing something like this, product, something like this, and this auto suggestion will give you this variable name, product where. Okay, and you will hit tab and this code will be automatically entered for you here. This way you can create query snippets within the Databricks, and this will actually save a lot of time. And you will be saying that, hey, this will not actually take much time to write it. I know that. But just imagine that you are writing complex case when statements. Complex case when statements, you can literally save your time. This is good. Second thing, cherry on the cake. Now here comes a cherry. Okay, so the cherry is, you will be saying, Anshlam, I don't want to use 10 every time. Sometimes I want to use 20, 30, 40, 50, 100. You can literally create variables within the query snippet, and this is not actually a variable. This is a kind of placeholder that you can put within your snippet. For example, this thing will populate something like this. Let's say this will populate this, where price greater than placeholder. So here you will use your common sense that obviously price needs to have an amount, and this is a kind of placeholder. So you can literally do something like this as well. I know this is a new thing, okay, and I literally loved it when I was just learning this. So let me just show you how you can just do that thing. Okay, let me just show you in Databricks. So We are back in our Databricks portal with lovely UI. So basically, let's try to build that. Let's create a new query. Let's click on these three dots and let's say create query. Okay. So this is my new query, and let's first of all rename it. I will call it as query snippet. Yeah, but this is just a query. This is not actually a query snippet. In order to create a snippet, basically query snippet, click on these three dots and click on edit and edit or view. Yeah, click on view and then query snippets. Perfect. So this will open a new browser for you, and see, I already have one thing that I can delete it. Okay, it's fine. I created it like long time back. Okay, so now I will click on create query snippet. Make sense? So this is the box that we need to fill. So we will simply say replace and then description and then snippet, like what we need to just write. So replace is something called as name for the query snippet that you want to pick. So let's say I want to pick where, I want to pick anything, like any name for your query snippet. I want to call it as, let's say, my where, or basically product where, so that you can be aligned with the example. Product where. Okay. Okay, makes sense. Product where. Product where, simple. And now we need to write the snippet. Let's say I want to write something like this. Where, what was the column name? Let's say product ID. Okay, let's say product ID. Product ID equals to, let's say 1. Okay, let's say create. So this is my snippet where product ID equals to 1. Now what you will do, you will simply go back to our Databricks query, and I will start writing the query something like this. Select asterisk, and let me just connect it to the cluster. So it will take, I think, few seconds, and yeah. So yeah, perfect. Select asterisk, and now I will simply write from, and I will write products. Now I will start writing something like this. Let's say product or where, static where. See, this is a snippet. So obviously this is the previous snippet that I'm just getting it here, but you need to just simply refresh your screen because this is like a newly created, so that it will just fetch that thing as well. So you can literally maybe refresh it if you want, because it should just give you that particular snippet. Okay, so if you just try product where, see, now you can see snippet. So I know that I can save my time. I will simply hit tab and this code is written for me. This is called query snippet, and this is very, very, very helpful. Make sense? Okay, so this is fine. So let's add some more challenges. Let's say you want to make this query dynamic, this snippet dynamic. So you can literally add the variables within that. Click on this. Let's add the variables, and the syntax for it is $sign and curly braces. That's it. You can click on save and refresh it, and refresh this as well. So now this time what you will see, product where and this time. See, now you can literally change this thing if you want. Make sense? And I think this can be replaced as well. Now let me just take you to the documentation page, and let's see if we have covered everything. Query snippets. Perfect. So this is the thing that we have covered, so it is fine. Okay, and this is also fine. Basically now you will ask me one question. If you have this question, let me just make it clear. You will say, what is this one? What is this one? And what is this colon? What is this value? So let me just show you. First of all, this is nothing, just for more readability, or I would say more, or basically better maintenance. So basically what is this $sign and curly braces? Basically this is just a placeholder. Okay, but if you write something like this, let's say you write something like this. Let's say I want to put here placeholder. Okay, and if I click on save, if I refresh it, and let me add 1 as well, and I can even add 0 as well, that's fine. So now if I try product where, so it is not refreshed. Let me just refresh it. Okay, So let me just try it now. So see, now you will not see those curly braces and you will not see that particular dollar sign. You will just see the placeholder value, basically placeholder keyword. Why? Because this is the power of this particular thing that we put inside the curly braces. So we are telling, so why, first of all, why it is useful? Obviously, dollar curly braces make sense. It is not a big deal. Okay. Why it makes sense to add like this? It promotes readability, because this is just a simple query, right? When you have multiple or basically multi-step query, and when you just put parameter value, basically variable value within those snippets, so you can be confused, hey, where, well, like what I need to put it here and what I need to put in the next line, in the third line, in any line, wherever you have the variables. So in that particular scenario, you add meaningful names in your variable so that you can just pass those values. Make sense? And what is this 1 2 3 0 1? Basically, whenever you will be passing the values, your cursor, see, this is the cursor. This is just for the cursor where it should be placed. So if it is 1, because we only have one variable, so it is just placed here. Let's say we have two variables, and if I say 1 and 2, let me just show you actually. I can simply say and product name, right? Product name equals dollar sign, curly braces. If I say 2, okay. If I say placeholder, ideally we should give different names so that you will be understanding it, but it's a simple query, so it's fine. And if I say 0, okay, if I save it, refresh, let's try to do it now. So what will happen if I say where, product where? So you will see that my cursor is here at the placeholder. Why? Because this is first thing that we have it here, only the first thing. So that is a kind of numbering that we provide for the cursor. Personally, I do not think it's very, very useful. The most useful thing is this one, this particular name, this particular, you can say, it promotes readability, plus it is a kind of meaningful name that we provide to our variables, right? So this is basically the architecture, syntax, concept, implementation, whatever you want to say, for query snippets. Okay. And we have learned like how to create a query snippet and how we can just work with it. So you can read this documentation, but this is the knowledge that you have just gained that is there in the documentation. So it's up to you. Okay. So you can definitely read it if you want. Okay. So this is about query snippets. Was it cool? Was it cool? I loved it. Because literally just imagine that when you have like multi-step statements, make sense? So let's try to create one. Let's play with it. Let's say I want to create one case statement. Okay. Case snippet. Okay. And I can simply write case when, and obviously here it will be a column name. So I can simply say dollar column placeholder. Okay. When this, basically your condition, whatever you have condition. So I will simply say dollar condition. Okay. When it is true, then whatever you want. Okay. Because there will be a value, right? So I can simply create something like this. Then I can simply say value, like what we want. Okay. Then let's say you have more things, when, and as it is for now, if we are just creating just a snippet, we can simply write one thing, because if we have more, we can simply copy and paste. Then I will simply say end as, and obviously the column name, right? So column name. So let's say I have created this snippet. Now I know that in my query, I would be using case statement. Okay. I'll be using case statement. So obviously it is a kind of boilerplate that I have to write that code, case, when, then, but now no, I can simply use case snippet, and this is a kind of template that I have already. Okay. So why it didn't give me this thing? Why? Oh, because I didn't put the numbers. Okay. Let me just put the number 1, 2, 3 and 4. because that is important. A kind of placeholders, like it is not necessary, but it promotes readability. And when you write complex code, readability is important. So let's say case snippet. Okay, perfect. So now see, now you are good because you have everything ready and you do not need to write the boilerplate again and again. This is a kind of, you can say, creating your own snippets. Obviously we have some built-in snippets. If you just type, you see like we can just hit tab to so many cases, but you can create your customized snippets as well. Just feel the importance. You can create the snippets which are aligned with your organization. You can create snippets, let's say, for your analysis. Whatever your stakeholders will be asking, whatever business people will be asking from you, you can create your customized snippets to to make your development better. It is not just for anyone else, it is for your growth. Make sense? See, select case when, and you know whatever the column name is, column name, let's say product id, whatever product name, and then we need to pass the condition. Okay, this is the condition, then the value and whatever column name we want to provide. See, that's how you can actually create or basically write your efficient queries within Databricks. I know these are very, very amazing features that we have in Databricks SQL Warehouse, but there are so many other features as well that we are going to discuss next. Okay, so let's see what do we have next. Now let's talk about the data warehouse, backbone of data warehouse. What is the backbone of data warehouse? The backbone of a data warehouse is the dimensional data model, aka fact and dimension tables. Fact and dimension tables. Make sense? Okay. So obviously you should have some basic understanding of fact and dimension table. If you do not have, basically whenever we have data, okay, so we break our data into tables, and the table which holds all the numerical data, all the data which can be aggregated, is called as fact table, and all the tables which can have some contextual data, okay, are called as dimension tables. So for example, this is our fact table, okay, and let's say this is our dimension table 1 and dimension table 2. This is basically a simple star schema that we have, very basic, very simple. Makes sense? So now we will be just looking at how we can just build dimensional data model, basically star schema within Databricks SQL Warehouse. And do you know what? Dimensions and fact table are actually very easy to build, but things get messy when you work with slowly changing dimensions. For example, you want to just store the history of all the changes that you are making in your dimension, everything. So in those scenarios, you have to manage each and everything. But do you know what? With Databricks SQL Warehouse, it actually makes a lot of things easy, but you need to understand how we can just work with it. And that part will be taken care by me. Okay. So in short, you will learn how to build a basically kind of star schema within the Databricks SQL Warehouse. Make sense? So I have some files prepared in my GitHub repo that I'll be just showing you. You can just download it from there. And once you have some files ready, we can start building our, you can say, star schema within the Databricks SQL Warehouse. There are some APIs, there are some new concepts that you will be learning, and it will be worth it. Okay. So let's see how you can just work with those things. Okay. Let's see. So this is my GitHub repo, and obviously you can just click on this button. Okay, and then you can just click on repositories, and then you will just land on the repo. So basically this is the repository that we're gonna use. Okay, this is the repo that we're gonna use, because in this particular repo you can actually find the folder called Databricks SQL Warehouse. See this one. So this is the folder for this particular video. So we have here 3 files. One is fact table and 2 are dimension, just to validate the example that we have just discussed, so that you can also learn better and understand better. So you can download these 3 files from here. Click on this file and click on this download button, and it will be downloaded on your machine. Simple, sorted. So this is everything that you need to do for now. Okay. So now what we will be doing, we will simply go to our Databricks. Okay, this is our Databricks, and let me just remove this particular thing because we do not need it. So you can simply save it like this. Okay. So now what I will do, I will simply go to the catalog. So now within this catalog, you can simply go to SQL Warehouse, okay, and go to STG. because in this particular staging schema, we have only products table, which is just a demo table that we created. Now in this particular, you can say schema, we'll be uploading basically the CSV files and we'll be creating the delta tables on top of it. Okay, click here and click on create and table. And now you can upload that CSV file one by one. Make sense? So let me just do it for you. So I have uploaded fact bookings CSV file like this. So it will take some time, and what it will do, it will simply create a kind of delta table on top of the CSV file. In short, it will convert the CSV file into delta and it will create a table on top of it under this particular schema. If it is not selected this thing, you can simply click on this drop down, make sure this is the catalog name, this is the schema name, and this is the table name that we can obviously change. And I would say, yeah, just keep it as it is. You can even change it, but that's not a big deal. Okay, makes sense? Okay, good. So you can click on create table and this table will be ready for you. Okay. Similarly, you can upload the other two files as well. And let me just quickly do it for you. And then we will be having all the three tables. Okay. So I have uploaded all the three files and I have all the three tables ready. And let's see if we have all the three tables. Yes, perfect. So these are basically our source table, which is in our staging schema. Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to do, we will simply create one more schema here. Click on plus, not actually here. You can click here, click on this particular catalog, create schema, and this will be, let's say, our on-rest schema, let's say. Okay, ENR, click on create, because we have basically three layers, bronze, silver, gold. You can also call it as raw, enriched, curated, or staging, enriched, curated. Okay, doesn't make any sense to just define any particular name. It's fine, you can just pick any name. Okay, sorted. So this schema is empty, obviously, because we do not have anything, but we will be populating the dimension and fact tables within the schema. Make sense? Okay, but before proceeding, you need to know a lot of things. Really? Yes. Okay, first of all, let me just take you to the documentation. Okay, and let me just close all the unnecessary tabs. So first of all, let's learn about something called as let's start with flow, or basically auto CDC. Boom boom. Okay, I want to take you to this particular documentation maybe. Okay, and developers, Python language reference. Yeah, perfect. So first of all, we gonna start with streaming tables. Streaming tables in your basically Databricks SQL Warehouse. Okay, so basically what are streaming tables? Okay, and these are new concepts, so you need to just put more focus in this thing. So basically streaming tables, streaming table, as the name suggests, is built on top of Spark structured streaming. First of all, okay, if you know Spark streaming, you can just imagine that it is built on top of Spark structured streaming, plus it supports incremental data processing. And I think if you have some fundamental knowledge about streaming, it always processes the new data. Make sense? So that is why streaming table in Databricks SQL Warehouse is a table with support for streaming or incremental data processing. That means, let's say you have today 1 million records in your table. Obviously, for the first time, it will process all the 1 million records. Next day, you got, let's say, 10,000 records. It will not process 1 million plus 10,000 records. No, it will only process the 10,000 records. It is called incremental data processing. Now, if you have some prior knowledge, prior experience, you know that we need to manage all this incremental data processing manually. But you know what? Databricks provides the support to automatically manage the streaming tables, basically incremental data processing, with the help of this particular functionality, or basically this particular feature that we have. Make sense? So streaming tables are backed by Lakeflow declarative pipelines. Obviously, each time an streaming table, wow, Databricks, correct this documentation. It is each time a streaming table is refreshed, data added to the source table is appended to streaming table. Appended. That means it will be simply adding the data. It will be simply adding the data. It will not upsert, it will not update, it will simply append the data. Okay. You can refresh streaming tables manually or on a schedule. Yes. Makes sense? So do you know what we gonna do? we know that we have the staging schema which has the source data. We gonna build streaming tables on top of those tables. Wow, literally yes, using Databricks SQL Warehouse. Okay, pure SQL Warehouse, pure. So let me just scroll down. Let me just show you the syntax. It is very simple. Simple. You need to write create or refresh streaming tables. Not actually this one. This is better because the above syntax is for you can say data lake if you have some data sitting in the data lake, but we have the data in the form of tables, so it is fine. Create or refresh streaming table, and then this is the table name, and then whatever query you want to write, and you will be using a special function called stream. That is it. That is it. Are you ready to just apply this knowledge that you have just gained? Because this is, I know, like a little bit new to you, but it is really worth it, because in today's era, in the world of big data, in the world of cloud data engineering, you do not want to process all the data every time. Plus, you do not want to manually handle all those, you can say, strategies. You want to build solutions really quick. Okay, so now what we can do, we can simply go to Databricks. Okay, and what I will do, I will go to workspace and I will go to SQL Warehouse, and here I can create actually a new query or SQL file. It's fine. Let's create a new query, and I think I clicked on dashboard. Let me just delete it. Okay, perfect. So let's click on query. So this is our new query, and I will be calling it as, let's say, streaming tables. Make sense? Streaming tables. Perfect. So here I will simply, oh wow, colon, semicolon in the name. Streaming tables, right? And let me just attach it. So first of all, if you are just aggressively using Databricks currently, sometimes you can see an error that you do not have enough capacity, enough resources to run the cluster. It sometimes happens. So if you see that error, do not need to panic, because you have exhausted your resources. But the good thing is it will be automatically recharged very soon. Just allow 30 minutes to 40 minutes to 45 minutes. It is my personal experience. Okay, I also used to see these errors, but whenever you see those errors, it means like you have temporarily exhausted the limit. So just allow 30 to 40 minutes, it will be like refreshed. Okay, so yeah, I will simply write create or refresh streaming table, and whatever table I want to create. I want to create a table in honorary schema, and it will be called as stream passengers, let's say. Okay, makes sense. And I can here put the catalog name as well. Catalog name is, we all know, is SQL Warehouse. Okay, perfect. Makes sense. See, create or refresh streaming table, and then table name. Okay, and did we write refresh? Yeah, perfect. Refresh means like it will be just refreshing it if you already have the table. It is similar to create if not exists, something like that. Okay, then I can simply say as select asterisk from, okay, and then table name. What is my table name? It is SQL Warehouse dot staging dot passengers, right? But we cannot write something like this. We have to use a special function called stream. Perfect. Oops, SQL Warehouse. Perfect. So this is the query. Let's run it. So it is saying schema workspace SQL workspace dot SQL. What do you mean? Workspace dot SQL Warehouse cannot be found. Workspace dot SQL Warehouse. Workspace. What do you mean by workspace? Oh, makes sense. We need to write like something like this, staging. We missed the staging part. It's fine. Just a typo. So this is now creating the streaming table on top of our source. Okay, and source table can be anything, right? Anything. So what it will do? It will literally load all the data to our new table, which is called stream passengers. And you know what will happen? Obviously, it will load all the data in one go. Next time, if we have the new inserted rows within that particular table, it will only process the new data. It will not process all the data again. And now you can ask, Ansh, Lamba, what if we do not have any new data? And what if we run this command? Nothing. It will simply do nothing because it already has the updated data. That's it. That's it. So this is running the query. Let's wait for a while. And this is just creating a streaming table on top of it. Make sense? Okay, very good. So this has created it, and this says the operation was successfully executed. Okay, let's try it. Let's test it. If I run the command SQL Warehouse stream passengers, and let's select only this query and run selected, you will see all the records are processed here. See, all the records are here. Wow, literally wow. All the 200 rows. Perfect. Let's say I run this query for one more time. Let me comment it out. Let's run this query for one more time. This was a question, right? Let me just run it. This will not create duplicate records. No, because there is no new data on the source side. No new data. Only and only the updated data. Now let's test it. We should see only 200 records. Okay. Perfect, 200 rows. So how it knows that it has a new data and it does not have any new data? How? Because in the real world, traditionally we used to use a CDC column, but there's no CDC column here. So the thing is, the best part is, it knows everything. Why? Is there any magic? So there's no magic. Basically, it obviously uses delta log. Okay. So in the source side, if we have not inserted any rows, if we have not inserted any new data, then obviously delta log will be as it is. Okay, again, delta lake feature. So if delta log is not updated, that means there is no new data. But if we update any new data, let's say if I update any record, if I add any new row, if I just add more records, what will happen? It will create entry in the delta log. It will create different versions. So it will simply run or basically load the data after the last version. Simple. Makes sense? Makes sense? Makes sense? So it will simply know like what has changed and what do we need to pull and what is the new data. Make sense? Okay, very good. So that's how it reads your data incrementally. Now let's create the streaming tables for all the other two tables as well. Okay. So I can simply copy and paste this code here and I can simply say stream airports and airports. Perfect. Now let's do it for bookings as well. Bookings and bookings. Perfect. Perfect. Now let's run this. And it will create simply the streaming tables for both of the both of the tables. And why did I write this particular thing staging? Because it is a good practice, to be very honest. It is a very good practice because see, currently my catalog name is workspace and schema is default. Both are unknown to me. So if I would not have used this thing, it would have created this table in workspace catalog, which is not familiar to me, right? So it's always a good practice to use catalog and schema name with your queries. I know that Databricks is doing amazing thing. You can attach it here. Just a good practice. Just have a good habit of writing catalog and schema name. Okay, it will help you a lot. Okay, so let's wait till the time it is just doing this thing. Then we're gonna just look at slowly changing dimension, which is the scariest part for you, but it will not be after just a few minutes because you're gonna learn how to build slowly changing dimensions in today's world using the most popular technology, Databricks, and you will literally be surprised. Okay, we have failed to create a pipeline cluster. Please try again later. Oh, see, I was just talking about this particular error and we are seeing this error. Failed to create a pipeline cluster. Basically, again, like we were just using Databricks aggressively. So now it has thrown me an error. No need to worry. Simply relax for 20-30 minutes. Simply detach all the other queries if you have. See, because it is also attached to this cluster. Simply detach it. Detach this one as well. And if you will go to compute, let me first of all save this query. Okay. Now if you just go to compute, you will see a red mark if I'm not wrong, if there's any error. Do we have anything? No. So we can try for one more time. We can simply say stop this one and just restart it. Yeah, see, red mark. So you can see this kind of thing sometime because SQL warehouses are expensive and obviously you are getting it for free. So sometime it can just throw these kinds of error. Clusters are failing to launch, cluster launch will be retired, view details, and you will literally find this thing. Request to create cluster failed with an exception, resource exhausted. See, so it is fine if you see this kind of error. See, I am also seeing this error. I was explaining this to you and now I'm also seeing this error. You have hit the limit for serverless compute for free usage. Stop or delete existing serverless compute to free up capacity. See, it is saying, bro, you have exhausted the resource limit, but you can just simply close the current connection. So I simply detached all my other queries because queries actually use a lot of resources. Now it is running. How? Because I just detached the queries. So you can also detach all the unnecessary queries and it will work fine. I am glad that I'm seeing this error so that you also saw this in front of you and now you know like how to fix it. So I'm happy that I saw this error. Okay, let's run this and let's hope it will work fine this time. Let's hope. So do not cry whenever you see the errors. Feel happy. Feel happy. And sometimes you will cry because sometimes errors take one whole day, 2 days, 3 days to fix. And it is the, I think, nature of the bug or error. Fix will be very small, but it will take a long to find that fix. But you know what? Once you find that fix, you literally see the error. Failed to create a pipeline cluster. Okay, so let's wait. Actually, this was running fine, but actually I think we need to refresh and we need to wait for at least 10 to 15 minutes. And once it is up and running, we can start again. Okay. So let me just run for one more time. If it fails again, then I will be just giving it a pause for 10 to 15 minutes and it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Makes sense. And who is texting me? Okay. Because whenever you just work with these heavy loads, yeah, so now we can simply come back and we can just wait for 10-15 minutes and it will work fine. Not a big deal. Okay. So now now you understood the concept, right? You understood the concept of streaming tables. Obviously, we just need to run this particular thing and it will be running fine. So meanwhile we are taking a pause, I can actually explain you the next steps, which are slowly changing dimensions first of all, because you need to understand the concept of slowly changing dimension. Make sense? Okay, so let me just go to compute to turn it off. Okay, and now let's wait because it will free up some capacity and it will be recharged. So now let's talk about slowly changing dimensions. Okay. Now let's talk about slowly changing dimensions. Let's find Wikipedia. Yeah, the best thing. I want to, yeah, this is fine. Perfect. Let's take this example. So basically slowly changing dimensions, what is this thing? And you will be thinking like why it is such a high talked topic. Why every other person is talking about slowly changing dimension? Why every other interview is just about slowly changing dimension? Why? Because when anyone is hiring you, not anyone, like obviously hiring managers, data engineering managers or whatever, whenever someone is hiring you, they expect you to manage their data warehouses or to build the new ones. Simple, sorted. In the world of AI, do you know what is my take on AI? Do you know what? Everyone is talking about AI right now because AI is new. AI is very new and AI is something which was not seen ever. So now that is a new thing. But you know what? Currently, people are just testing AI on top of the data, which is structured, which is well modeled. Who modeled that data? Data engineers. Who prepared those models? Data engineers. Who will prepare those models? Data engineers. Who will curate that data? Data engineers. Because only then any LLM can take the decisions and can answer your questions or whatever questions anyone is asking from that LLM, because LLM can access the data easily because of data engineers. So if you are into data engineering domain, if you are into data engineering field, you should feel happy in the world of AI, because I'm not saying that AI cannot replace data engineering tasks and responsibilities. But yes, I am saying this thing, if you compare data analytics, if you compare software engineering, if you compare data science, if you compare any other tech profession, I would say data engineering is in the safest hands. Why? Because every other profession, every other sector, every other domain is dependent on the data, data, data. Now you will say how software engineering is dependent on data. Basically, software engineering is like developing something. So they have data in the form of code, language documentations, and all those things. Data analytics, you have data sitting in, see, you should know this fundamental thing that data engineers actually serve the data to the downstream such as data analytics and data science. AI LLM is also a downstream to data engineers. It is not an upstream. Make sense? So data engineers are actually feeding AI LLMs that data. So that is why you need to master these areas, slowly changing dimensions and all those things. Yes, AI will help data engineers to work better, to automate so many tasks. I know this, so many tasks, literally so many tasks. Monitoring, debugging, fault tolerance, everything. But the core responsibility will still be on the data engineering side because LLM can take decisions based on the curated data. Make sense? AI will help, definitely will help in the constructing maybe test cases. Yes. But yeah, that is why you need to master slowly changing dimension. So let's talk about slowly changing dimension. It was just a quick philosophical talk, or basically not philosophical talk, just a kind of quick guide to you. Like whenever you just ask, hey, AI is here. So if you are data engineering, you should feel happy. Okay. So let's talk about slowly changing dimension. So basically what are slowly changing dimension? We know like what is a dimension table. Dimension table means when we want to provide some context to our fact table. For example, transactions or orders is a fact table in which we have order amount, quantity, weight, and all those numbers. In the dimension table, we have some context. Which context? It can be anything. I personally feel dimension is a theme. Theme. Yes, theme. 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 So customers is a theme. So you can have a customer dimension. Product is a theme. You can have a product dimension. So it basically works on a theme. Make sense? So let's say you want to aggregate your orders based on customers, you will have a customer dimension. You will aggregate your data on basis of products, you have a products dimension. So you can literally create themes. Okay, so this is just a dimension. But do you know what? These dimensions do change a lot. That is why it is called slowly changing dimension. Because let's say there's a product ID, okay, product ID 1, and its name, the product name is, let's say, any biscuits, Oreo biscuits. But after 1 year, now Oreo is rebranded as, let's say, Poreo, let's say. So now you need to just rename your column, right? You need to rename your record. So that record is being updated. That is why it is called slowly changing dimension, because you need to update the information which is in the dimensions. Make sense? So we have, I think, 6 to 7 types of slowly changing dimensions, but the most popular ones are type 1 and 2. That's it. And type 0, type 0 is like non-slowly changing dimension. That means it will remain the same, retain original, because it does not have any kind of changes. For example, date of birth. Can you change your date of birth? Can you? I know a lot of people change it, but logically, normal human beings do not change their date of birth, right? So type 0, it means like it will never be changing. So type 0 means not changing any data. Type 1 is overwrite. When you just want to overwrite your data. Okay, overwrite. Simply, let's say you have the name Oreo. Next year it will be called as Poreo. But that way you will not actually store the previous value. Make sense? Okay, simple. Because I'm just explaining these terms in very simple language so that you can understand it. So as you can see, key is 123, key is 123. And now supplier name was Acme Supply Company. But after, it is also same. But supplier state was CA, which is California. And then after some time, the supplier state was IL. I don't know what is IL. What is IL? IL Illinois. Okay. Illinois. What is this? So just keep names very simple, right? So now the supplier state is changed. It is now Illinois, IL. Okay. So now the data is updated, but there is one disadvantage. We cannot see what was the previous value. This disadvantage is actually covered by slowly changing dimension type 2, which is something called as add new record. So as you can see, this is the way. This is saying, hey, the previous value of this particular record was CA and now it has IL. Makes sense? So whenever we just create the slowly changing dimension in the real world, we create like this. We do not like to write version 0, version 1. No, we simply write start date and end date. What is the start date and end date? Start date is like when the record was inserted, when it was actually generated. Okay. And what is this end date? End date is something when the record was expired. Make sense? So that is why in the second value, the start date makes sense when it was updated, but end date is null. Why? It means it was never expired and it is still in use. Makes sense? The second way of doing it is you can put a very big date. Let's say like this 9999 0101. This is another way of doing it if you do not like keeping nulls in your column. So you can also put it like this, like very big date. Makes sense? So this is like core understanding of slowly changing dimensions. So basically slowly changing dimensions are very important, as you know. Plus it takes a lot of efforts to build it using code. But with the help of Databricks SQL Warehouse, you can literally create SQL warehouses, your slowly changing dimensions very easily. Okay, and let's try to start it now. Okay, and for that we have an amazing feature. It's called CDC, auto CDC. So this is a kind of functionality that we have within the Databricks SQL Warehouse. It is called auto CDC. That means what we do, we simply create a streaming table. First of all, okay, and let me just show you the example so that you can just understand it. So basically you first of all create the streaming table. Okay, this streaming table is your end table. That means your dimension table. Okay, and you will notice that there is no select statement after that. Why? Because this is an empty streaming table. Okay, then what you do, you simply create a flow. What is flow? Flow is basically, you can say, the way to insert the data within this table. See, this is a target, right? We know that we want to just write the data to this target. We will create something called as flow. Okay, create flow, and you can pick any flow name. Then as auto CDC, because there are two types of flows. One is like append flow and second is auto CDC flow. Make sense? Make sense. You can also consider it as, let's say, what was the previous name? Let me just check. Because in Python API, we just call it as, now it is called as auto CDC flow. Earlier it was called as apply changes, I guess. I don't know. You can just check. So yeah, I think it was called as apply changes. So basically it is called auto CDC flow. So we do not want to create an append flow. We want to create an auto CDC flow. What is the difference between two? If we create append flow, as the name suggests, it will simply append the data, which we do not want, right? We want to apply the upsert as well, right? So we'll simply say create flow name, and then as auto CDC into means where we need to put the data into the target. See, both the name are same, target. Now we need to say from means what is the source of this particular data. The source is our streaming table that we created, right? Stream underscore passenger, stream underscore airports, those things, right? Then keys. What is this keys? Basically, whenever we just create a dimension table, we need key columns, right? Which is a primary key which decides is this record unique or not. Okay, so this is the key column. Then apply as delete. This is optional because this is useful when you just want to delete the data in your destination as well, but that is fine. We do not want to delete it. Then this is sequence by. Sequence by is very important when you have, let's say, duplicates in your data. Sometimes we get duplicates due to data quality issue. We can literally remove those duplicates, literally. Okay. Then columns asterisk except. So what is this thing? It is saying, let's say you have a source with 50 columns, but in the dimension table you just want 15 columns. Okay, so what you can do, you can simply say columns asterisk except operation and sequence number. That means you do not want these two columns. Okay, then you simply write stored as scd type 2. That means you can either store it as scd type 1, scd type 2, and track history on asterisk except cd, whatever you want to, what column you want to use for tracking. This is the code. That's it. This much of code is required to build the whole dimension, not just build, to maintain it as well. This is the power of Databricks SQL Warehouse. Make sense? Good. So now let's try to go to our query and let's try to first of all create this, you can say, streaming tables, and then we'll be just creating our dimension tables. Okay, slowly changing dimensions, and you will feel the energy, like how powerful it is. Literally, because you will be writing at least I think 200 lines of code easily if you want to create it manually. Easily, I'm not kidding. But here you do not need to write 200 lines of code. It's just like hardly 10 lines of code, right? So let's first of all quickly create this particular streaming table, these 3 streaming tables. Okay, I think I am running all the 3 tables together. Statements 0 of 2 completed. Okay, 2 running. Okay, I think, yeah, makes sense. Let's wait. Let's wait. Okay, this time it is running fine. See, we just wait for 10 minutes and now it is running fine. So it is fine. It is fine. And meanwhile this is running, I can create my dimension table 1. Failed to create a pipeline cluster, please try again later. What? Still it is not running fine. Okay, so let me do one thing. Let me just run it one by one. Let's see if it runs or not. Because sometimes if you are running the multiple commands, it will be just creating multiple threads and it can actually create problem. See, the operation was executed successfully. So if it is the problem, you can literally run it one by one and you do not need to put much load on your small cluster. Failed to create a pipeline cluster, please try again later. If the problem persists, please contact Databricks support. Okay, so this was running fine, right? If we run this, because I think this was already created with the help of this previous run. Yeah, I think so. Statements 1, 2, okay, operation was executed successfully, and this is also done. Okay, dim bookings. Hey, we do not have dim bookings. What is this dim bookings? We have fact bookings, right? Yeah, what is this dim bookings? Let me run this. Let me run this. Yeah, I think fact table is a little bit bigger, so that's why it might be causing problem. But yeah, we are not covering fact table for now, and fact table is just like a fact table. We are not creating slowly changing fact table. So fact table is good. We can literally ignore it. Okay, because obviously we have some quota limitations and all, so I can simply comment it out for now. But you know, like we already have the fact table in the staging table. Makes sense? Because we are currently focusing on slowly changing dimensions, because we can literally create fact table as is. We do not need to worry about creating the streaming table for that. Make sense? Make sense. Okay, so okay, makes sense. Let me just do one thing. If I do it like this, limit 100, fail to get a pipeline cluster. Yeah, no. Okay, that's fine, because our main work is done. We have created our both the dimensions, so it is fine. So let's create a new query and let's call it as, let's say, scd. Okay, scd slowly changing dimensions. Okay, So in order to create the story changing dimension, you first need to create an empty streaming table. And you will be just giving a name. I want to give, let's say, SQL Warehouse dot enrich dot dim, or basically write like this, dim passengers, or basically let's say dim airports. Okay, so let's say I want to create this end table. And what is the code for this one? It is this. Let's try to copy and paste it here, and then let's try to edit it. So first of all, we need to clear this target, because our target is dim airports. Make sense? From, what is the from? What is our source? Our source is stream and then airports. Remember? Okay. What is the user ID? Basically key. It is called, I think, airport ID. But I think we should be sure. Let me just try to query the data. Select asterisk from not passengers, airports. Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah, it is called airport ID. And for passengers, let me check. It is passenger ID. Okay, we will just keep this thing in mind, and let me just detach this notebook. Okay, so airport ID, apply as delete when operation equals to delete. This is basically a kind of column, but we do not have this column, so we can delete it. Sequence by. Now, do we have any kind of sequence column? Let me check. So if we go here, and if I go, I don't think so we have a sequence column. So you can literally say sequence by airport ID. It's fine. So what this does, let me just explain you a little bit in more detail, because this is important. So sequence by, so let's say you have loaded the data in your source and you have done a kind of backdated refresh. Do you know the concept of backdated refresh? Do you know it? If you don't know the concept of backdated refresh, you should know. So let's say you have the data in your final database, okay, like this. Let me use yellow color, yellow. Okay, so this is, let's say, your final database, and your database is working fine and everything is running smoothly. But one day someone reported that, hey, data for the past month is not working fine, or let's say past year is not working fine, and I'm just seeing some unnecessary records, data is not matching. So in those scenarios, sometimes maybe your pipeline was failed silently. So in those scenarios, you need to rerun your pipeline with the back dates. Okay, so just tell me one thing. Let's say there's an ID. Okay, airport ID. Let's say airport ID 1 has the airport value. Let's say what is the popular airport? Let's say Ansh airport. Okay. Oh, Ansh airport. Just imagine. Okay, let's say this is first ID, and ID name is Ansh airport. Okay, this is the ID and this is the airport name. And this is the airport name, which is the current value of the airport. Make sense? But last year, this airport name was ID1, same. Okay, this airport name was Lamba airport. Okay, Lamba airport 1 year back. But this is the current value. Tell me one thing. You applied a kind of backdated refresh. Okay, this is the new data, right? If I will insert this data here, okay, if I insert this data here, as per the rule of story changing dimension, this will be my new value. Okay, but just tell me one thing. Is this the new value? Is this the new value? No. New value is this one, because this is a backdated refresh 1 year ago. This was updated 1 year ago. So that is why we call it as sequence by. So let's say in every record, we have a kind of timestamp column. Let's say last updated. So it will always check the last updated of this record with the existing record. If this last updated is greater than this value, then only it will insert or maybe update the data. Otherwise, it will keep it as it is. If you didn't understand this part, rewatch this section, because this is really important. Make sense? And I also literally um, tried very hard to understand these things when I was learning. So it is fine. Do not feel like why we need to just rewatch some parts. Are we dumb? No, bro. No. So currently we do not have any timestamp value, so we will simply say airport ID. Okay. Columns, we want all the columns, so we can simply say columns asterisk stored as, let's say, except operation sequence number. We do not have actually operation, but we can get rid of sequence number. Yes, for sure, because it will create a sequence number column for us. And then stored as type 2. Track history, we can remove track history, it is fine. So let's try to run this. Let's try to run this. The operation creator without query is not allowed. Operation create without a query is not allowed. The operation is not supported streaming table. Which one? Without a query. Okay, so let me first of all run this. The operation create without a query is not allowed. Operation is not supported on streaming tables. Oh, see, did you see the issue? So it is saying that you have created this table without any kind of query. You cannot create any kind of table without any query. But we are not actually creating any table like this. We are literally using this particular flow as well, right? So in order to deal with this, you need to simply go back and you just need to copy this code, okay? And you need to just paste it somewhere else. Where? So basically, whenever we just create flow, it is not actually allowed to do it directly in this particular area. You have a special area for this. You can only create the streaming tables under this particular area. So if you just want to create the flow, which is an advanced concept, okay, so but I want you to learn, that's why I'm just showing you. Okay, this is like indirectly related, but yeah, if you go to jobs and pipelines, and if you, okay, so these are basically all the jobs and pipelines which are there for us. I can delete it, or maybe I can keep it, it's fine. Basically, what are these pipelines? So whenever we create any kind of, you can say, job, any kind of, not job, like any kind of streaming table, it creates a kind of pipeline for us. So that is why it was throwing me an error that we cannot create more jobs because it already created 2 jobs for me. Basically, this is not a job. These are basically the pipelines, ETL pipelines. Make sense? So this is the back end working behind the queries that we were running. Make sense? So whenever we write create or refresh streaming table as select asterisk from whatever, it creates an ETL pipeline for that. And under the free edition, we cannot create more than 2. So that is why it is creating these pipelines here for us. But ideally, do you know what we should do? Ideally, we should create a pipeline and we should copy all the SQL code there. This is the better way to do that. And that's what I'm going to just show you, because this is really important from the, you can say, data warehouse perspective as well, because I want you to learn how to run your SQL code, but there is a better way to do that. Okay, so how you can just do that thing? So I will simply ask you to delete these 2 pipelines. Okay, this will, I think, not allow you to do that. Let me just do it, because it is actually attached to the query. Yeah, it will not allow you to do that. So what you can do, you can simply go to the SQL, and this is SCD, and here you can actually delete it, like delete these things, query init and query snippet if you want, not like init, basically SCDs. Okay, you can actually delete it, and you can delete the streaming tables as well. Make sense? So for now, what I'm going to do, I will literally save these things, okay, in any query. Let's say placeholder, let's say create query. Okay, and this is just a temporary query that I'm creating just to copy the code. Placeholder, perfect. So this is my query for creating the tables and then SCDs. Okay, perfect. So just put it there. Very good. Now I can simply delete these queries because I do not want these. Then streaming tables as well. Perfect. Now if I go to jobs and pipelines, let's refresh. Okay, let's see if we now can delete it. Disable for pipeline with this pipeline type. Okay, this is basically disabled. So, but what if I just want to delete it anyways? Action disabled for pipelines with this pipeline type. So just ignore these two pipelines because these were like automatically created, and let me just attach a mic. Perfect. Let me just check. Mic 1, 2, 3. Yep. So perfect. So now we're gonna just create our own pipeline, and it's fine. Don't need to worry. So simply click on this create button and click on ETL pipeline. So this will open up this particular UI. If you do not see this UI, that means you have not enabled that toggle that I mentioned in the beginning of this video. Just go and check that out. Okay, that's why I say stay focused. So you need to click on settings and developer and just make sure you have turned on this button, which is called Lake Flow Declarative Pipelines Code Editor. Okay, so for this particular pipeline I will simply say SCDs. Okay, and we can pick catalog as, let's say, SQL Warehouse, schema as in ENR, because we want to create that objects in the ENR, right? And we can simply say start with the sample code in SQL. So what it will do, it will basically provide you the canvas where you can write your advanced code that is for DLT, such as slowly changing dimensions, auto CDC, all those things. Make sense? Okay, very good. So now obviously this is a kind of DLT feature and we are not covering DLT in detail. I had dedicated video called Databricks Pipelines in detail if you just want to learn DLT in detail, but we are simply covering the data warehousing part. Okay, so currently I will simply drop all the files under transformations. So basically what it does, whatever we put under this folder called transformations, it will create only one pipeline for all those files and it will see the lineage automatically and it will run everything, literally everything. Make sense? So we gonna create our dimension table using this one. So I will simply create one file, create file, and I will create a SQL file obviously, and I will just simply name it as, let's say, SCDs. Okay, SCDs.SQL, or it's fine. I think it's fine. Yeah. So SCDs.SQL. Perfect. So let me just paste that code here. Makes sense, and let's make sure everything is fine. Dim airports, okay. Stream airports, I would need to put STG because that is a different schema. Airport ID, and let's remove this particular line, it's not required, and let's try to dry run it. Click on this drop down, click on dry run. Dry run is basically running the pipelines but not populating the things, just like a kind of safe check, quick validation, all those things, right? So let's do this and let's prepare the code for our second dimension, basically second slowly changing dimension as well. So I can simply say dim passengers, and this time you will not see that error that you cannot create whatever, because the thing is, if you even check the documentation, the official documentation, let me just show you. So if you see Lakeflow declarative pipelines for Databricks SQL, you just have two options, streaming tables and mat views. That's it. You do not have auto CDC and all. You have the auto CDC under the dedicated section for your DLT. Okay, so just run your things. Cannot have multiple queries named ENR flow. What is this? ENR flow for SQL warehouse, ENR dim airports, additional queries on that table. Cannot have multiple queries. Oh yeah, but that's fine because I was just writing the code in between, so it's fine. So let me just fix it as well. Airport ID, and this is like passenger ID. Okay, passenger ID, and this is passenger ID again. Perfect. And dim passengers, everything is fine. This is dim passengers. Perfect. Dim passengers, dim airports, airport ID, passenger ID, everything is fine. Make sense? Makes sense. Very good. So perfect. So now you can just do a quick fix. You can see we have flow 1 and flow 2. Earlier we had the same name, and obviously we cannot have the same name for both the things. So flow 1 and flow 2 is fine. Just change it, and let's click on dry run for one more time, and let's see everything is fine. I, by the way, checked it, so I thought everything's fine. Yeah, perfect. So now you can see like it has created these two streams, right? And here you can see the DAG, basically the graph. We have streaming table 1, streaming table 2, both are slowly changing dimensions, right? Perfect. Now I can simply run this, the real run. This will populate the data as well, so that we can see like how our dimension table is looking. Okay, and I will even show you the pipeline as well. So this is running the pipeline, And these are not basically two pipelines. No, this is just like one pipeline, but all the code is there. See, that is the advantage of this particular code editor that we do not get with the previous editor. That is the only difference. That's it. Because obviously if you want to perform some advanced things, you cannot perform it there. So this is area. These two are done. Let me just show you what actually happened. Jobs and pipelines. So you can see there's new job called SCD. See, SCDs. And this is created by us. This is not automatically populated. So that is why if I click on these three dots, I can even delete it, but I do not want to. And if I just click here, I cannot do this because this is basically automatically created by Databricks, and this will just create a new job every time whenever you just run anything directly from the SQL editor, but not from the DLT editor. Make sense? Okay, perfect. And we don't need to worry about these two things. Okay, so that is fine. And now what we need to do, I will simply show you the query. Okay, so now let's try to query the data. Okay, let's see like what do we have. Let's go to placeholder. Okay, and see streaming table is there. Streaming table is there, so we can even delete it if we want, because we already have the table and we don't want to populate it. So this is also deleted. So now let's go to placeholder. Let's say select asterisk from SQL Warehouse dot enr dot dim airports. Let's see what do we have inside this. Start, attach and run. And we should see the exact structure that we usually build for slowly changing dimension type 2, right? And you will see that exact structure with dates, columns and everything. Okay, let's see. The only difference is you just need to run your slowly changing dimension code in the DLT editor and not in this editor. That's it. See, this is the data and we have start at, end at, everything is here. Why it is saying start at 1001? Remember, we didn't have any kind of timestamp column, so it just picked this particular airport ID. But usually if you have any timestamp column, it can simply use that particular start at and end at. And end at is null, obviously, because this is not expired. Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? Very good. Okay, perfect. So this is the way to populate the slowly changing dimension. The motive of this section of the video was that you can build slowly changing dimension type 2 with Databricks SQL Warehouse capabilities much faster, much quicker and in much more efficient way. Much more efficient way. Make sense? Very good. So this part is also completed and done. Let me just now delete it because now I do not want this particular pipeline, because now you understood the concept. Okay, and this is there and this will be there. That's fine. Yeah, perfect. So now, and if I just click on owned by me, yeah, because these are still owned by me, but yeah, I cannot delete it. This will not actually, I think, consume my resources. I think so. If it does, I don't think so. If it is detached, and yeah, it's fine. Okay, so this part is also done. So now what do we have next? Next, we wanna talk about something called as query caching. Query caching. Okay, this is an amazing feature, by the way, amazing feature, because whenever you are building any reports, not you, let's say anyone, or let's say anyone is using SQL queries to load the data or anything, you need to cache your query results. Okay, and even before talking about query caching, you need to first of all see the query profiling and all. How you can just see the query profiles, whatever queries you are running, you will feel like, hey, do we have those features available in Databricks? And what is the advantage of this and what we can actually do with that? So there are like so many things that you can do with the query profiles. So first of all, in order to just work with query profiles, you should have some, you can say, in your SQL warehouse. And now you have already the queries, the parameters, the snippets, dimension tables as well. That is a big deal. Now you can just go with the query history and profiling. Okay, so whatever query you run, you get a query history and profile. And we need to just talk about this feature in detail because there is so much to discuss in this and every part is worth it. So first of all, let's try to go to editor. Okay, and let's try to see what did we run just now. We ran this query. Make sense? Okay, now we want to see what did we run. what did we consume, how long it took, what was the data size, what was all those things. You will literally feel so powerful after having this feature, because this is literally game changing. Let me show you. Just click on query history, okay, in your left pane. And now let me collapse this area. So this is a kind of audit, or basically all the logs that you have for your all the queries. Make sense? Make sense? Make sense? So as you can see that if I click on this query, even before clicking it here, we have so much of information. We have started at, like, when this query was started, it was started on 4th of October, right? Duration, how long it took 23 seconds. Schedule 10 seconds, running 13 seconds. Placeholder, what is the query name? Query name is this one. Compute, which compute did we use? We used serverless compute. Make sense? We used serverless compute. Okay, very good. Then if you see user is me. Okay, you can even filter down on so many things, like what was the serverless compute, pipeline compute, what are all the things that we used, and duration, status, statement, all those things. Okay, like look, like you can literally filter down the queries based on your requirements. Okay, if I click on any particular query, let's say I want to dig deeper inside only one query, I will click here and you will see one graph popped up here. Okay, here, and here you will see literally everything. Okay, just click on see query profile and you will see this graph. And let me just explain this graph, and let me just actually change the mode to light so that you can just understand it better, because it does not have like a very good contrast. So let me go to developer and dark mode to light mode. I personally like the dark mode of Databricks when I use DLT. That's it. Now we can just go. Yeah, perfect. So let's click on this query. Now let's click on see query profile. So this is basically the query profile. Okay, first of all, bytes read, like how much of data did we read? We read 6 KB of data. We read 50 rows. Okay, and we just read one file. Okay, this was the query that we read. Okay, perfect. Now query wall clock duration. So basically there are two areas. One is scheduling, second is executing. Scheduling means it waits for the cluster to start up and running, waiting for compute. So it took 10 seconds to turn on the cluster, and that's fine if cluster is turned off. Then the real execution only took 4 seconds. Okay, and optimizing query and pruning files, it took 8 seconds to optimize the query and prune the file so that you can just get the better results and you do not waste any kind of resources while reading unnecessary data. Wow, literally wow. Then start time, it was started at this time, end time, it was ended at this time. Result fetching by client 105 milliseconds. Open source, like query source, obviously this query name, aggregated task, and all those things. Everything is here. See, files and partitions, spelling, bytes spelled to disk, everything is here. This is literally, you can say, modern way of looking at Spark UI. Kind of. Obviously, like, this is not the same thing, but kind of. So now what is this area? This area, let me just zoom it a little bit. So this area is basically a kind of tag. So first thing, it scanned your table. If you are coming from a PySpark background or Spark background, you will relate it a little bit. See, this is a scanning layer. Then columnar to raw. Why? Because obviously whatever data we store it in the columnar basis, columnar file format. Then it just converts it into raw format. Then it is a limit. Make sense? So this is like telling us all the time it took everything. Okay, it took almost 0 milliseconds. It took 1.6 seconds to do this. Then memory peak. Now it took 16 MB peak memory to do this. Then 0 bytes. And if you talk about rows, 50 rows. And this is actually an amazing thing, bro, if you do not feel it. Then we can also go to top operators and you can see what are the top operators. Same thing here. And this is the query, the actual query that we ran on top of our data. Make sense? So everything is there. Okay. Now do you know what I will do? You have seen all these things, right? Okay. Now let me just do one thing. Let me go to recents. Okay. And now let me just run this query for one more time. Okay. Obviously this data is now not available because we deleted the, you can say, DLT pipeline, and whenever we just delete the pipeline, it deletes the objects as well. But that's not a big deal. That's not the concern. My main point is to just show you something very special. So let's say staging.products. Okay, let's query this data. Okay, and this is the data that we saw. Perfect. And you know what will happen? Let me just clone it. You will see everything in the query history. Okay. Okay, this is the query that we ran, and this is the copy ID, 677 milliseconds, 84, 435, and everything is there. Perfect. Now let me just rerun this query for one more time. Perfect. Now if I go back here and if I, let's say, refresh it, okay, I think this is the one, 671 milliseconds. Let me just refresh. Yeah, this is the new query, right? So if I click here, you will see everything, but much quicker, but you will still see everything. Let's say, see if I click on see query profile, this time you will see query profile is unavailable for cached results. What does it mean? What does it mean? If I click on the previous query, the same query, see, these are the same queries, right? If I click on the previous query, and if I click on query profile, not, I think this one, I think actually both, because both the queries are fine. So just to explain it better, I can say where category equals, let's say, category X. Okay, let's run this. Okay, perfect. Now let me just show you. Refresh. Okay, so this is the query. Perfect. Just click on it. Click on see query profile. You will see the whole query profile. Okay, perfect. Let's run the same query for one more time. Same query. I didn't change anything. Okay. Now you will see this thing. If I click here, query profile is unavailable for cached results. Why? Same query, didn't change anything. So this is called query caching. This is called query caching. So basically, what does it mean? So let's say you ran a query. Okay. You ran a query, and when you ran a query, then immediately you ran a different query. Okay. Basically in a different time frame, anything, but query was same. It will not process the data again to save time, to save compute resources, to save everything. But why? Oh, why? Okay. Let's say you are in class 10th. Okay, just imagine. Okay, you are in class 10th and there's a question, there's an examination, especially mathematics examination. Okay, question number 1, you need to solve or perform basically, I think not 10th standard, let's say 11th standard, and let's suppose you took mathematics in your class 11. Okay, in your class 11th you got one question, you need to integrate something. Okay, I hope that you remember integration and differentiation, right? You want to integrate cos theta, cos 45 or whatever. Okay, 1 plus x whole square, whatever. You computed everything one by one, step by step, and you took, let's say, 2 to 3 minutes to do that. The next question is exactly the same, and it is a multiple choice question. Okay, you do not need to write anything, you just need to tick. In the previous question, you spent 2 to 3 minutes and you know this is the answer. In the second question, same values, will you perform the same steps again? No, right? So you will simply tick the value, right? Because you have the answer. Same thing here. Same thing here. Why you need to just compute everything if you know the answer is same? So this is called query caching. But there's a twist. It will not cache the data every time. No. So let's say your data, underlying data is changed. let's say the products table data is changed, then obviously it needs to perform that particular, you can say, um, query again. Obviously makes sense. So for example, let's go here, okay, and let's insert some values. Okay, let's insert some values, insert into if we have query in it. Okay, no, we do not have anything here, so let's insert it from here. Insert into products. Okay, and then values 1000, product X. Okay, anything, category X. Okay, makes sense. So let's insert this value here. Okay, so we inserted the value. Now let's try to run the same query. Okay, same query. Makes sense, same query. So now this time you will see that it will run the query. Let's see if it did. Yes, because the underlying data was changed. It was not the same. So it is smart enough to skip the values, because there are some dumb students, right? In class 11 especially, because class 11 is full of emotions, class 11 is full of those hormones. So now let's say, like, good hormones. So let's say in the second question, the teacher put the exact question, okay, but she was really smart and she just changed the value of one variable. So you need to be smart enough to obviously recalculate everything, because the value of one variable is changed. So this is the same concept here as well. So if your underlying data is changed, you have to compute the data, and everything will be managed by Databricks automatically. You do not need to do anything. Make sense? So this is the concept of your query caching and basically query profiling. Let's try to read something on documentation page, because documentation is very important, because you will get a habit of reading the documentation. So let's say Databricks query profile, basically query caching. Perfect. Query caching, let's read this documentation. Query caching, yeah. So query caching is an essential technique for improving the performance of data warehouse by avoiding the need to recompute or fetch the same data multiple times. Same thing in Databricks SQL. Caching can significantly speed up query execution. We know that. Each caching layer improves query performance, minimize cluster usage, and optimize resource utilization. Obviously, because we do not need to spend more resources. Speed, reduce cluster usage, everything is fine. Now we have types of query caches in Databricks SQL. Okay. One is disk cache, second is local cache. Okay. Sounds fancy, but it's very simple. Okay. Then we have UI cache. Okay. Then we have remote cache. Basically query A. Okay. Query A. Then we have UI cache. Step 1, if user is in Databricks SQL UI. And we are in Databricks SQL UI. So this is basically a kind of local cache. Make sense? Then we also have something called as remote cache. If result is not in local cache, then last resort, execute the full query and try to use a disk cache if possible. If you have applied some caching on the disk, but not on the Databricks UI. And you can simply see Databricks SQL UI, per caching of all query Databricks results in Databricks SQL. Like, you can literally read it and you will understand it, what it is trying to say. And what I have told you is the condensed form of knowledge. Okay, with the help of easy to understand examples. That's it. Make sense? Make sense? Okay. So now let's see what do we have next. So just one more thing under queries. So I just want to show you one more thing. Okay, so what's that? Basically, when you just go to queries, okay, so obviously these are like queries that we built in the past. So let's say there's a query called placeholder, and actually it can be like anything. Okay, so let's say this is the query. Okay, let me just remove it. Let's say this is the query and you want to schedule this query. Let's say this is the query that you want to run every single day. You want to run maybe every hour, whatever. Okay, this can create tables. This can actually do anything, literally anything. So in order to do all these things, how you can just schedule a query. So when you just click here, now it is showing it is grayed out because cluster is not on. Let me just turn it on. So you will see an option here, schedule, and you can actually schedule this query. What is the benefit of it? Basically, whatever you develop in Databricks SQL Warehouse, obviously you need to apply any kind of somewhere SQL Warehouse. So it is turning it on. So let's wait. So I was saying that whatever you build in your Databricks SQL Warehouse, obviously you need to just, you can say, schedule it at some point, right? So you can actually do it with the help of the scheduling options, and it is amazing. It is a good one. And I hope that you are learning amazing things in the Databricks SQL Warehouse course. And if yes, drop a lovely comment in the comments section and just give your positive or like real feedback, okay? Original feedback, and just tell me how we can just create more and more videos like this, okay? Okay, so now it is showing same error. Serverless starter warehouse, okay. Compute, let's go to compute. So yeah, this is fine now. Let's try that for more time. So let's go to queries and placeholder, and we're just trying to schedule it, right? So let's say I want to schedule it. So it is saying saved query text is empty. Please enter and save a query before scheduling. Very good. So whenever you want to schedule a query, make sure that it is saved. Once it is saved, then you can click on schedule. So here you can actually schedule this query as per your convenience. So let's say I want to schedule it for every day, and it should run at, let's say, 1:30 or whatever, let's say 2:30, whatever, okay? And if you just want to see the cron syntax, you can click here and you will see this cron syntax. If you are a fan of cron syntax, I am not a fan of cron syntax. So if you are, you can pick this particular syntax, okay? Now it is saying time zone. You can even select the time zone. Currently I'm using UTC, okay? And if you want, let's say, any other SQL warehouse connected to this particular query which is scheduled, you can pick it. In our case, it is just using the same warehouse because we do not have much warehouses available, okay? So you can actually schedule it, and you can click on create and it will be scheduled. I do not want to schedule it because it will be just consuming the resources, but you can do it, okay? So perfect. So that's it. I just wanted to mention about queries. Now we are going to see how we can just work with Databricks SQL alerts within Databricks warehouse. Let's see what are those things. So basically, first of all, let's go to alerts. Okay, even before going to this one, we can just first of all go to the documentation. Databricks alerts. Perfect. Let's open this link. Databricks SQL alerts. This feature is in beta. Yes, this is a new feature, but obviously you need to just explore new features, because see, I know that these features are in beta, but industry is already using these features, okay? So first of all, what are alerts? What are alerts in your super brain? What is the definition of alerts? So let's say you have built your pipelines, okay? Now you have your dimension table, fact table, you have everything ready, everything, okay? Everything, literally everything. So now let's say you want to apply some user testing. What did I say? User testing, not unit testing. Unit testing, not user testing. Okay, let's repeat. Okay, so let's say you have your data, okay? Fact, dimension, whatever, final and tables, and now you want to apply unit testing. Unit, not user testing. User testing is QA environment. Unit testing, that means you need to just check the logics that you have, okay? Or you do not need to perform any unit testing, but you need to create some monitoring capabilities for business people, for business stakeholders, so that they can be alerted based on some logics that they have asked for you, or basically for your team, or basically maybe just to take any business decision, okay? It can be literally anything. So this is a particular feature which helps you to create alerts. Make sense? It can be positive, it can be negative, it can be neutral, it can be any generic information as well. Make sense? Okay. Now let's see if we have anything here. I will just show everything, so I don't want to just give you an overview for this. So yeah, I think it's fine. So now let's go back to our Databricks workspace. Okay, and even before this, you can just click on your icon, go to settings, and I think you would need to set up something called, I think, notifications. Just go to notifications, just go to manage, and just make sure that you have a destination. You can click on add destination. In our case, in my case, I have this email ID. So you can put your email ID by clicking on add destination, because you need to have at least one destination. Okay. Once you do that, let's go back to the alerts. Perfect. So basically, just for your kind information, alerts are more recently updated. That is why you are seeing two boxes, alerts and legacy alerts. So legacy alerts will be discontinued very soon. Okay, and what is it written? Alerts v2 API breaking changes take effect October 21st. Okay, API users. Oh, it is for API users. Okay. So now legacy alerts, as the name suggests, this was the previous traditional method to create the alerts, but we will be just looking at the modern structure, how we can just do that. Okay. So in order to just do alerting, in order to just apply alerts on top of your data, so how you can just do that? It's very simple. Click on create alert. Okay. So what is this? Basically, this is the query canvas where you can just play with your data. So let's say I want to apply alerts on top of the data for products. Okay, so I'll simply say select asterisks from products, SQL Warehouse dot stg dot products. Okay, let me click on run. So this will simply give me the output of it. Okay, and what is the output? Output is the whole table, right? Now I want to set up an alert for my business stakeholder, and the concept is very simple. So this is basically a kind of, you can treat this table as your transactions table for now. Okay, just for, you can say, just for the understanding. So let's say this is a kind of orders table that we have. So my business stakeholder told me that, hey Ansh, I want a capability to be notified whenever our sales are exceeding the number, let's say 1 million. Okay, 1 million, let's say. So I want to add a capability to notify him or her on the basis of the logic. So how I will just write the query for it? I will simply say select sum of price column. Okay, and I can call it as, let's say, total sales from, and from is, let's say, SQL Warehouse dot stg dot products. Okay, let's run it. So this will give me this number. Okay, now I can use this query to apply the alert logic. The logic is very simple. The logic is it is obviously 173. Let's say we want to be notified if this number crosses 150. Okay, and currently it is crossing, right? So let's do that. So condition is simple. First row, whatever, select column and these things. So we will simply say I would say first row. Yeah, makes sense. First row, select column as total sales, which is this one, equals to, I will say greater than equals to. Okay, static value, yes, let's do 150. Okay, 150. Then we can even test the condition. Let me just click on test condition, and currently triggered. What is this triggered? Our value is more than this 150. That means it is triggered. Make sense? This is a test. If we put, let's say, 180, then it will say, oops, then it will say okay. See, perfect, because our value is less than 180. So syntactically it is right, but it is not triggered. But I want it to be triggered after 150. Okay, perfect. So now this alert is there. Now we want to schedule it, right? Because we will be just running this alert in a schedule, right? So we can simply say, hey, run the schedule every day, okay, at this time. Simple. And here comes the important part, notifications. I want to receive the email on this email ID, which is this one that we just created. Okay. Then advanced. What is this advanced? So basically, even if the trigger is not triggered, basically alert is not triggered, and even if it is written OK, you can get the notifications on the status equals to OK as well if you want to. Okay, but obviously we do not want to, so that's why it is turned off. Notify frequency. So let's say you received email once. Okay, now you do not want to receive more emails if you are just receiving the same alert, right? Same status. So you can simply say once, always, at most every, and once I think makes sense. So until the status returns to OK, send notification once. Simple. Okay. Empty result state. The state of the alert when the query returns 0 results. Obviously error. Okay. Okay. Template. Now what is this template? By default, we just get a very generic message, but if you just want to use some customized, some dynamic templates, basically dynamic emails, click here and you can literally write anything here. This is the subject. Let's say, hey bro, sales have crossed 1 million. Okay, and this is the body. But do you know what? In the body you can even use some system variables. Really? Yes. If you click here, formatting guide, open link and new tab, you will see this, and they have literally mentioned all the variables. See, these are all the built-in template variables. Alert status, alert condition, alert name, alert URL, query name, because obviously whenever you receive an email, you need some context, right? Because in the real world, there'll be so many alerts. So you can literally use these email, like these variables in your body. And how to use it? You simply need to enclose it in the double curly braces. See, an example subject for instance could be alert and then this name, change status to alert status. Simple. Okay, makes sense. Simple, right? So this is basically a kind of F string that we use. Okay, and we can even use HTML to format the message in a custom template. Only email notification destinations can render HTML. The following tags attributes are allowed in the template. So if you just want to design your email as per your convenience, you can do that. Make sense? Okay, makes sense. So this is the way to do that. And if let's say you want to use anything, you can, and then you can just simply click on create. Again, I don't want to just use the resources because I have already seen those exhausted message multiple times, and that is why I will not be creating it, but you can do that and you can test it as well. Okay, and you will receive the email. Sometimes it takes time, 2 to 3 to 5 minutes. You can even check your spam folder sometimes. So you will receive the email. Make sense? This is all about the alerts. Sorted? Simple? It was simple, right? Okay, perfect. So now what is the next thing? Next thing is very, very special. Okay, what is that? So first of all, let's go to queries. Okay, because we gonna develop a situation. Okay, let's do that. Let's go to workspace and home, then go to SQL Warehouse. Okay, so here let's go to, let's say, this query placeholder. Okay, perfect. So this is our query, because now currently, just to give you a hint, we gonna see how we can just integrate SQL Warehouse with Databricks jobs. Okay, how we can just schedule it, how we can just orchestrate it. Make sense? Okay, good. So now what we want to do here, we will simply perform a task. We will simply create an environment which will help us to understand the things, how things are going. So for example, let me first of all name it as query 1. Okay, query 1. Okay, so here I will simply write a query like this: select asterisk from, and by the way, I'm not a very big fan of queries, so what I will do, I will create one query and one SQL file as well, so that you can understand both the things. Okay, so this is my simple query, static query, and I will simply say select Min basically, okay, let's say product name. Okay, let's say product. So this is a query which simply returns you the product name. Okay, so I will simply say product name. Oops, this is my snippet. Product name. Okay, product name from products, where product name equals to product name. Okay, makes sense. If I run this, I will only get one column. Oh, why we don't have anything? Okay, let me just comment it out. Let's see. Okay. Oh, product name. Okay, what is this? Oh, this is not the right table. Okay, I selected a different catalog. Okay, so let me just say SQL Warehouse dot stg dot products. Okay, perfect product name. So this is my SQL query. Makes sense? So now what I will do, I will simply create one more thing, and this time I will create SQL file, not query. What is the difference? No difference. So why are you creating SQL file? So that you can SQL file dot SQL, so that you can see that you can either create query or SQL file. I personally like SQL files more whenever I want to work with a parameterized SQL script. But if I'm using static script like this, I always go with query. And personally, I use SQL files to develop the pipelines, because we can dynamically pass the values that you will see right now. But with the queries, you cannot pass the dynamic task references. You have to just hard code the values that I do not like. Okay, so perfect. So now this is my second activity in my orchestration, and I want to do like this. Select asterisk. I want as everything from, or let's say I want to create a view, let's say, or basically create table. So I will simply say create table. Table name will be SQL Warehouse stg, or let's say test table. Okay, I want to create this, and the query will be very simple. Select asterisk from SQL Warehouse dot std dot products. Okay, I will simply say where product name equals parameter. Okay, prod para, that means prod parameter. Makes sense? So if you will be running this, it will ask you to provide the parameter. Make sense? So let me first of all save it, and then this as well. Okay, perfect. So this is prod para. Makes sense. Now what I need to do, I want to create a job. Let me just create a duplicate tab. So now I want to create a job. If I go to jobs and pipelines, and if I go to create job, because now I want to orchestrate everything. Okay, so this is my job canvas. So first of all, I want to create a task for SQL file, right? And you can even turn on the modern UI for Lakeflow jobs. You can click here and click on. So this is the modern UI that you can pick. DBT, wow, nice. DBT, SQL query, or for each. We want to run SQL query first of all. So I will simply click on SQL query. Okay, and let's try to configure it. Perfect. So this is the task name. I will simply say SQL query. SQL query. Okay. Type is SQL. SQL task is query, because we have two types: query and alert, file, legacy dashboard. Yes, we can even orchestrate alerts as well. Okay. Then SQL query. What is a SQL query? We need to now pick the query one. Okay. SQL Warehouse, this one. Parameters, the selected SQL query does not have parameters. That's true. Perfect. Now the second task will be let me just click on create task first of all. By the way, if you want to master Databricks jobs in detail, I have a dedicated video on that. You can simply go on Google and simply search Databricks Lakeflow jobs, Ansh Lamba, and this is the video for that. And this is let me just show you. Yeah, this is the video for that, and this is the video that you can just watch. And this video will give you complete understanding for Databricks Lakeflow jobs, end-to-end understanding. This is, I think, 3 hours long course from zero, from scratch. You do not need any kind of, you can say, experience, nothing. And this will make you a pro Databricks orchestrator from scratch, trust me. Okay, just watch this video and you will feel happy, and trust me, you will be like more than happy after watching this video. This is like a go-to resource for me as well. If let's say I want to revise those concepts, this is the video for me. Like amazing depth, amazing things I have covered in this video. Okay, so just go and play and enjoy and learn, bro. And oh, nice, you can even click here. So perfect. So now let's try to create our second activity. Just click on add task, and this time we do not want to create SQL query, we want to create SQL file. Okay, sometimes you will not see this option SQL file. No worries, simply click SQL query, then you can change it from here like this, query and file. Okay, it's same thing. This time we need to pick the path, and path is pretty much straightforward. This is the SQL file. Now in this particular thing we have one parameter, right? Prod para. Do you know what? Now I can use dynamic content here, but in case of SQL queries, I cannot use this dynamic content. I have to provide the hard-coded value. So what is the dynamic content that I want to use? Remember, we want to use the output of this query into this particular file. Let me just rename it SQL file. Okay, so this is complex thing. We want to use output of this particular query into this particular file. And how to do that? It is very simple. You need to simply click on this dynamic content. Okay, just click here and you will see something called as, let me just show you, task values. See, tasks dot SQL query, like there are so many options. The one that you need is task.SQL query.output.first row. Simple. You need this thing because you need only and only the first row. Make sense? If you just pick the rows, then you will get the array of the values, and we do not need to pass an array. You simply need the first row. Make sense? This thing, row. And this is not actually the end, because after the first row, you also need to pass the column name. What is the column name? You already know. It is called product name. Like this, right? If you see here, this is my first query. What is the column name? Product name, right? So we have to pass this value because this will go to this file as a dictionary. Okay, good. This way you can actually orchestrate your queries and files both, and you can dynamically refer the output of one activity into the other one. This is the way to do that. Again, there is a dedicated video made on Databricks Lakeflow jobs. Definitely watch that video to learn all the ins and outs of Databricks. And if you already know, then obviously you will understand everything in this. Okay, so if I want to rename this job, so I can simply say create task first of all. Now let's try to rename it. Let's say job 1. Okay, perfect. If I say run now, click on view run. So this is simply running this job. And let's see if it creates the table for us. So currently this is running SQL query, and once it is done, then it will go to this SQL file. This is a very simple tag. Simple sorted. Very good. This is also completed. Okay, in order to test it, what we can do, just create a kind of new query, and you can just call it as test. And here we can simply query select asterisk from SQL warehouse.stage.test table. This was a table that should have been created by the job. Yes, perfect. Now you saw how you can just orchestrate the Databricks SQL Warehouse workloads. Make sense? Very good. Very, very, very good. So this is the way that you can just do all of these things. Make sense? Okay. Now, I know you have learned a lot of things. I know you have just discovered so many things. Now it's time to just talk about some AI stuff, AI capabilities that we have within the Databricks. Let's talk about that. So basically, in Databricks, they have added amazing AI capabilities, which is specifically in the data science section. And in the free edition, you will not see the agent bricks. They also have agent bricks. But we have something called as AI Chatbot, which is enabled by Databricks. So for example, let's say you as a data engineer has loaded all the data. You have created dimensional data model, you have created star schema, you have created slowly changing dimensions, everything is ready. Now that data will obviously used by data analyst to build the reports. That is fine. That data will be used by data scientists to build their models. That is fine. But you as a data engineer, or basically let's say there are some stakeholders, they can be technical or non-technical, they can be business people. They want to run sometime the ad hoc queries. Okay. Now in today's world, they do not want to ask for these kind of tasks. They do not want to just call someone, hey, can you please do this ad hoc analysis for me? I want to see the number of sales we have made. I want to see the price for this one. Can you please write me a SQL query? No. This used to happen a lot. That's why we had so many data analyst, business analyst positions available. But right now, they do not want to disturb anyone for these small tasks. No, no. That is why business people are becoming independent. How? With the help of AI chatbots, with the help of AI capabilities on top of your data. Now, obviously, if you are using any other technology, you will be building your own AI chatbot on top of your data. You will provide context and so many other things. If you are using Databricks, you already get this amazing feature by default. That is the best thing. Let me just show you. For example, if you just go to Genie, okay, this Genie is your AI assistant. You can literally ask any question from this Genie. You can ask this Genie to even perform some technical stuff, like literally technical stuff. Okay, and let me show you. Click on plus new. Okay, so this is saying what table connect your data. What is your data for this particular task? Let's say I want to create, basically connect staging SQL warehouse schema, and I want to connect my products table. Okay, create. Let's say there's a business people who is doing this task. Okay, okay, perfect. So it is saying new space. Click here to add a description, attach a file. If you have any CSV file, you can even attach it along with this. Okay, and explain the data set. What is there? Just ignore. This is the data. This is the data. What is data? What is data? This is your RAG. Okay. If you do not know these AI technical jargons, so okay, let me just explain in simpler terms. This is basically ideally it should be called as RAG or basically vector store, but this is basically called as, you can say, context. Okay, better name for RAG. This is just a context. Okay, this is a context. Okay, okay, perfect. So now what will happen whenever you will ask any question here? Let's say I want to ask, how many products do we have? Very random query. Okay, not planned, nothing. So if I hit this, okay, what will happen? Let's see what will happen first of all. Okay, because I don't know the answer. Okay, total products 5. Wow. Just stop here. Just stop. Just observe the output. Observe the output. What is the output? You will say 5. Bro, I asked you to observe it. Okay. Let me just show you what do I mean. If I click here, analysis complete. Click here, and these are all the steps. Okay. First of all, this question will straight go to this data. Okay. Obviously, like it will first go to LLM, but LLM will send this question to this particular data that, hey, I need to answer this question using this data because I have a context of this data. Make sense? Okay. Then LLM obviously acts as a brain. Okay. So thinking steps. So it knows that I want to count all the entries in this table. Okay. To determine the number of products. This is the first step. And it knows it needs to do this. Do you know what it did? It literally created a SQL query and it ran that SQL query and it returned the results. Really, let me show you. If I click on show code, this is the query that is generated by Genie. One quick question and very good question if you are able to ask. You have just 3 seconds. Just think about it. What is so strange here? Let me just tell you. Select count asterisk as total products is fine. This is fine. This can be generated by your normal chat GPT or any other LLM, right? How it knows this thing, that the catalog name is this, schema name is this, table name is this. This is the difference between your any random chat LLM and Databricks LLM, Databricks Genie. Why? Because you attach this table, right? So it has the access to the data, it has access to the metadata, it has access to run the queries on top of it and generate the final result. You cannot say, hey, what is a big deal? I can simply go to chat GPT and I can simply give a prompt. I will get the query. I will run it. Why to do all of these things? First of all, your chat GPT doesn't have the context to your data. Your chat GPT doesn't have your schema and catalog name, table name. Third thing, it cannot run your SQL queries against your database because obviously it doesn't have any compute. So this is doing everything for you behind the scenes. Everything, literally everything. So what it did, it ran the SQL query. Okay, you can even run it from here as well. It ran the SQL query and just observe the output. This is an output of a SQL query. This is not just an NLP. So it is actually running the SQL code. So what is the benefit of it? Yes, LLMs are not 100% accurate, but sometimes even if it is not giving you the right result, you can quickly look at the code. And being a data engineer, you can quickly fix it, you can quickly change it, and you can run that code. You do not need to write everything from scratch. Make sense? Very good. So this is a kind of AI capability that you get with Databricks, and you can literally provide this feature to, let's say, stakeholders, to your stakeholders, anyone, literally anyone, and they can enjoy working with this. Why? Because they do not need to ask for these things from anyone. Earlier, before AI, I am telling you this thing. There's a reason why everyone wanted to become a data analyst, because obviously there's a huge demand of data analyst, right? Why? Business people didn't even know how to write SQL. Business people didn't even know how to write joins, subqueries and all. Obviously they're business people, you are technical people, right? So they had to hire those people so that they can even ask for these small tasks. That is why there's a difference between a data analyst working in a company X. There's a difference between a data analyst working at a company Y. Maybe one data analyst is simply running these small queries, and other data analyst is actually running Python scripts, doing EDA, using pandas libraries, using all those things. Both are called as data analyst, but they differ a lot in terms of skills, right? I hope you are getting my point. Make sense? So this way you can actually ask the questions in the NLP. Let's try to ask another question. Let's say I want to say, bro, I want to see all the products, okay, for category X. Okay, very good. Now, do you know what? I can even add some CSV and XLSX. That means your Excel file, XLSX files. So now this way you can even provide some customized context as well as per your question. Okay, because this is permanent, this is temporary. Okay, let's try to get this answer. So it is saying, see what it did, same thing. It first of all understood this, that it needs to fetch everything for category X. And if you remember, if you observe the output, let me just tell you what's that. I said category X. I didn't even make C capital, but still I got the correct and accurate result. Why? Because LLM is super powerful nowadays. It knows that category X is equivalent to C capital. User is not smart enough to put C capital, but you know, like, what do I mean? Because if you see the query, if you see the code, this is using capital C and capital X. I didn't use it. So this is the power of AI. Make sense? So this way you can actually create a chatbot, which is not a big deal because it is already there. You just need to know how to use it, and now you know how to use it, right? There are some things such as benchmarks. Okay, what are benchmarks? Questions. If you just want to evaluate, if you just want to do these things, benchmark is maybe just for the validation. Okay, just for, you can say, accuracy and identify context gaps and all those things. Okay, then we have monitoring. If you see the monitoring, these are the two questions that we asked. Yes, everything will be recorded, so you can actually train your model, just all those things. Okay, click on share. You can even share this particular Genie with anyone, because obviously this particular thing can be shared with the business. You can rename it and you can simply say chatbot. Okay, makes sense, and you can just share it with anyone else. Oh, that's cool, man. Yes, that's cool. If you go to Genie, you will see this chatbot is created, and this chatbot now can be accessed by anyone. Now any business people, okay, can just go and just ask any question if they want. Make sense? How was it? Cool. Okay, good. Now let me show you some of the new advancement that Databricks is doing right now. If you click on these dots, you will see Lakehouse and Databricks One. What are these two things? Okay, let's first of all click on this one, Lakehouse, Analytics and AI on large scale data. If we click here, you will land on the same screen because this is the Lakehouse area. What is this? Databricks One. What is this? Click on this. Wow, this is amazing. What is this? Basically, Databricks one means one. Databricks One means one place for your dashboards, one place for your chatbots, one place for your applications. Yes, we have Databricks applications as well. So all those, you can say, user facing things are under one hood. That is why it is called Databricks One. Make sense? Very good. Now we already have this Genie. So do you know what? Databricks has made this feature available, and I think it is the best decision that they have made. Why? Because now we do not need to give access to our Lakehouse features. We can simply provide access to this particular thing, and they will simply see the, you can say, final products. Let's say I created this chatbot. Now anyone can click on this. Okay, I can click here and I can simply ask the questions as is. That's it. They do not need to see the stuff that we have in the backend. Makes sense? Same with dashboards. Obviously we are not covering dashboards here. Dashboards is like are like more for data analysts. And applications is like when you have anything, you have made your custom chatbot, custom applications, and this is like front end for it. We do not have any kind of applications for now. Okay, so this is a great initiative. Great initiative. So let's go back to Lakehouse, and this is our backend. So this is like backend, front end, backend, front end. Cool. So that is all about your Databricks AI chatbot capabilities. Make sense? Very good. So yes, this is all about your Databricks SQL Warehouse. end-to-end course. You learned all the features that we have. You learned AI capabilities that we can add, scheduling, slow changing convention, incremental load, everything, literally everything. So I hope you loved this video, and just hit that subscribe button right now and just drop a lovely comment, and I will just see you in the next video that is coming on the screen right now. And happy learning.